Part 71. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 725. After shooting the video, the sky turned slightly dark and the lake surface was covered with a layer of silent blue. Lu Chang'an played back the video and frowned slightly. Seeing his frown, Bai Hui's heart tightened slightly. What, doesn't it look good? No, my photos are not very good. Lu Chang'an has always objectively commented on others, and he is also very objective towards himself. It's pretty good. Bai Hui felt relieved and looked at Lu Chang'an's eyes, which were shining a little under the dim sky. The first time I took the photo, it was much worse than yours. Lu Chang'an glanced at Bai Hui and nodded. You. Bai Hui understood Lu Chang'an's eyes and nodded very well. Are you trying to say, how could your first shoot be at the same level as my first shoot? This is what you said. You are so annoying. Bai Hui said this, but she leaned a little closer to Lu Chang'an and looked at the camera screen in his hand. Look at the photos. Bai Hui can basically use it as a special plane. Lu Chang'an took out another camera and opened it to look at the photos. He was a little satisfied and still commented objectively, my ability to take pictures is much better than taking videos. The aesthetics and composition are talent is difficult to improve through practice. Bai Hui also admitted this. She was very fortunate that Lu Chang'an's later level was still a little behind hers due to insufficient practice, but she could still be his teacher for a period of time. Do you mean the photo looks good? Bai Hui asked casually, with a calm tone to avoid attracting his attention, and deliberately said it didn't look good. Certainly. The photo looks good. Does that mean I look good? Bai Hui bit her lip, her eyes moved, there was a shy smile between her eyebrows, and she looked at him softly. If he said she was pretty, her whole body would probably turn into honey, right? That's not necessarily true. If the photo is beautiful, it just means that the photographer wants to express positive emotions from a normal perspective. It means that the photographer is good at finding angles suitable for displaying the subject. Lu Chang'an looked at the photo, and then looked at it again. White fennel. Yes, I think too much. After all, I heard you say that I am average looking, not just once or twice. I am ugly, I am an ugly duckling. Okay. After Bai Hui finished speaking, she bit her lip, staring at Lu Chang'an angrily. I just object to your logic that good-looking photos mean you are good-looking. I didn't say that you are not good-looking. Lu Chang'an frowned. Why can't you understand human speech? Stupid woman. Although she was scolded, the anger on Bai Hui's face disappeared. The sweet feeling in her heart made her couldn't help but follow him with brisk steps. He was obviously scolding, but she felt like this, are you a bit shameless? The ugly duckling seems to have turned into a white swan. When we got back to the farmhouse, most of the students had already left, except for a few students who were planning to spend the night here. Gao Duai, Miao Yingying, Lin Xinhua and Lei Hong were getting together to play mahjong. Miao Yingying was yelling because Gao Duai always grabbed her cannon or cut off her beard. Lu Chang'an went over to take a look. Bai Hui and Miao Yingying squeezed together and sat on a stool butt to butt. Bai Hui was ready to give instructions to Miao Yingying to prevent her from being bullied by Gao Duai. Lu Chang'an went to work in the kitchen. The kitchen in the farmhouse was simple and plain. The big pot that could be used for bathing, the earthen stove made of bricks and mud, the chopping board made of tree stumps, and the forged kitchen knife that was ground to a snow-white shine all suited Lu Chang'an's taste. Mind. There are also baskets of loofahs, roosters in bamboo cages, grass carp in water tanks, large bowls of pork, beef, mutton and various types of waste. There are enough ingredients for Lu Chang'an to show off his skills. After observing for a while and wondering what dishes to make, Lu Chang'an had just fished out the grass carp from the water tank when Bai Hui walked in and stood next to the door. What are you doing here? The kitchen is not a place for a woman like you. Lu Chang'an killed the grass carp and turned around and said to Bai Hui, who was just giving advice to Miao Yingying to play mahjong. The kitchen is a serious and dangerous place. Although Lu Chang'an also did some things related to women in the kitchen, it was just because it was beautiful and delicious. How many people have lost arms and legs because they are not good at cooking and have annoyed the chef? This is what some people say, a gentleman is far away from the chef. Bai Hui didn't explain. She originally thought Lu Chang'an could play mahjong, so she sat down, but he ran into the kitchen, and she followed him. What's for dinner tonight? Bai Hui randomly found a reason. When it came to eating, Lu Chang'an ignored her. He deboned the grass carp and sliced it into slices, preparing to make boiled fish fillets. You can eat whatever I cook. Is it possible that you still want to order? I see that An Nuan often shows off your cooking. Bai Hui didn't want to mention An Nuan at first, but she always felt that if she deliberately didn't mention An Nuan, wouldn't it mean that she had some whims about coveting her? Bai Hui took her cell phone and clicked casually. When you were busy in her kitchen, was she always by your side? No, usually I would kick her out. Lu Chang'an glanced at Bai Hui's lips. She was licking her lips after she finished speaking. They were moist and exuded a not so bright but alluring sheen under the light of the incandescent lamp in the kitchen. Then don't chase me. Bai Hui took 2 steps forward actively. My cooking skills are actually quite good. Like family dinners during holidays, if we don't eat out, I will help my mother cook. Get started. Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Hui suspiciously and pointed to the rooster in the bamboo strip cage. Then help me kill that chicken. Bai Hui took one look at the big rooster, and was frightened. He then moved back and stood next to the kitchen door without moving. He looked at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. Couldn't he give him some face? Who can help me? What do you mean? Killing chickens, especially big roosters, is definitely the job of the main force. My intention of killing chickens is to wash dishes, cut cucumbers, etc. These white fennels are good at it. Lu Chang'an sneered and said nothing. Nowadays, these girls are really useless. They can't even kill a chicken. The girls in the past were so easy to work. Let alone a chicken, they can kill a goose. It is impossible for them to kill chickens. Seeing the cute chicks, raising a chicken for fun is almost the same. After dinner in the evening, they played mahjong for a while and went back to their rooms to get ready for bed. However, Gao Dui and Lu Chang'an waited for a while and met again in the tool room downstairs. They still wanted to take a look at the cave. This hole was dug by Li Hongfang. He could have asked Li Hongfang what was inside, but Lu Chang'an didn't ask. The unknown is more interesting. What's more, because the Han Dynasty tombs are so old, it is normal for them to self-destruct and turn into ashes as time goes by, not to mention countless tomb robbers. The structure of many tombs is complex. After all, tomb robbers are not archaeologists. In many cases, they dig casually and evacuate after finding enough burial objects. Even if some large tombs have been robbed, some tomb chambers may be well preserved and have not been discovered. It would be interesting if we could find a living coffin again, and Lu Chang'an was looking forward to it casually. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 726. The tool room is stacked with things commonly used for farm work, such as hoes, shovels, rakes, baskets, poles, etc. Lu Chang'an looked at it, took a bundle of rope and carried it on his back. Just as he was about to grab another shovel, Gao Dui opened a 3-layer wooden cupboard common in rural kitchens and took out 2 engineer shovels. My dad was a soldier. He said that sometimes when he goes to an orchard or other places to look around, he doesn't know what kind of problems he may encounter that need to be repaired. When digging and knocking, it is most convenient to bring an engineer shovel. Gao Dui took a handful and handed it to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an took it in his hand. This engineer shovel is a must-have item for men at home, although he did not prepare this. It is better for ordinary men to keep a sapper shovel at home. After all, not everyone is like Lu Chang'an, who can basically solve all problems with his fists. For example, when I went home one day, I found Lao Wang next door lying on his bed. He grabbed an engineer shovel from the door and his combat effectiveness immediately increased. It was also more controllable than holding a kitchen knife. You must know that many times when wielding a kitchen knife, you will often face an embarrassment. If you really cut it down, someone will die. It is not worth spending your whole life with a wife who has cheated on her and this trouble. But if we don't cut it down, how shameless would it be? Maybe others see you hesitating and point arrogantly at your neck, "Are you going to chop me?" The engineer shovel doesn't have this problem. It's easier to control whether to chop or shoot, to beat half to death or to leave a pipe of breath. If an accident happens accidentally, the engineer shovel is also convenient for digging holes, dividing, building walls and sealing. Of course, this is not in line with the core values of socialism. After silently reciting civilization, harmony, rule of law, and friendliness, you will feel calm. Just beat him up and get a divorce. The engineering shovel is a good thing, Lu Chang'an concluded in the end. It is much better than the hand axe of the Stone Age. Aren't you talking nonsense, Gao Dui said with a smile. When I was a kid, I fought with my cousin, and I slapped him with an engineer shovel. Then he went to learn martial arts and vowed to seek revenge from me. Later, he learned martial arts successfully and was punched by me again, so he went to open a martial arts gym, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Ha ha. Gao Dui laughed twice before lowering his voice. Actually, I didn't know the severity of fights when I was a kid, but he was older than me and became sensible earlier. He just didn't care about me and wanted to learn martial arts. It scared me, but I didn't expect that I would actually continue learning later. It's good to have brothers who grew up together, Lu Chang'an said enviously. Gao Qunyi ranks second. It was our eldest brother Gao Yeneng who played with us when we were young. Now everyone has their own affairs. Apart from getting together during holidays, we can't play together normally. Gao Dui sighed softly. If he had been a child, he would have called Gao Yeneng and Gao Qunyi to explore the robbery cave tonight, but if he told them now, they would probably stop him instead of playing with him anymore. Lu Chang'an was just thinking about a song called Nostalgia for He Ziu Mayanki and sighed when the kitchen door was pushed open and two figures stood at the door. Although Gao Dui couldn't see their faces clearly, there was no one else but Miao Yingying and Bai Hui. Good evening, Lu Chang'an greeted them. Do you also want to come with us to experience the life of working people who work hard day and night? Experience your size. Miao Yingying rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an, who was talking nonsense. You want to secretly go to that robbery cave? Do you think we don't know about it? Wise Lu Chang'an nodded. We haven't even changed into our pajamas yet, so we're just waiting for you, Bai Hui said a little proudly. Gao Dui sighed. These girls are really busy and not good at studying. If you have time to keep an eye on them, how about finding some open courses from famous schools? MUSI courses are very good. If you find a useful and easy-to-use app, you can't stop watching and learning once you start. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything more. He searched around the tool room, took 4 flashlights and lighters, and said, "Let's go." Are you really taking them there? Gao Dui said unexpectedly as he followed Lu Chang'an. It doesn't matter. Snakes are all hibernating now. Even if there are snakes on the path of the hole, they will be awakened by the original digger and changed places, Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly. The chance of actually encountering ghosts, zombies, and the like is very high. Young, at most they just think about ghost stories in that special environment, listen to the wind and leaves in the forest, scare themselves, and scare the shit out of themselves in the wilderness. Under normal circumstances, if a person stays in the dark for too long, even if there are people next to him, he will feel ghostly. This is because at this time, the yang energy in the body is dispersed and the yin energy enters the body. Naturally, one can feel the existence of another world. It's normal to even sense that something in another world is observing you and entangled with you. Think about it carefully. Have you ever had this experience, staying with other people for too long at night, and suddenly feeling that the other person is a little strange, so you quickly say a few words to let him speak, and find some familiar feeling to feel at ease? Do you know why? When Miao Yingying heard what Lu Chang'an said, she already screamed, "I don't know, I don't want to know, stop talking." Bai Hui shuddered and glanced at Lu Chang'an. Fortunately, he didn't look strange to anyone, and quickly grabbed his clothes. Gao Dui laughed, and then felt that his laughter was ruining the atmosphere and could not scare Miao Yingying, so he quickly stopped talking. The last sound coming out of his throat was a bit strange, and Miao Yingying thought that he was deliberately scaring her. So he hit Gao Dui several times. Miao Yingying and Bai Hui set out anyway, with Gao Dui leading the way. Of course he was the most familiar with his own family, and Lu Chang'an didn't act like he knew where the burglary hole was. Behind Gao Dui is Miao Yingying, who is holding his belt, and behind Miao Yingying is Bai Fen. Bai Hui also wanted to pull Lu Chang'an's waistband, but Lu Chang'an walked behind her. Although she couldn't pull his waistband, the feeling of him behind her made Bai Hui feel at ease. Walking out of the farmhouse area, there is still a section of road with lights on, and a solar and wind-powered dual-energy street light at a distance. However, for girls like Miao Yingying and Bai Hui who grew up in the city, this kind of farmhouse in the fields, there is absolutely no city noise that I am used to, and it still feels a bit inexplicably scary. Will we meet a ghost? Miao Yingying started to scare herself. When people are in a state of tension, psychological pressure leads to abnormal mental states, and they often lose their rationality. They force themselves to think about the scientific knowledge that proves that ghosts do not exist, but the fear cannot be dispelled. If you can't dispel the fear, you can't be rational and calm down. If you walk too much at night, you will always encounter ghosts, Gao Dui said, taking a flashlight and looking around casually. Can't you stop scaring me? Miao Yingying walked timidly against Gao Dui's back. Bai Hui looked at Miao Yingying with admiration. It turns out that women can become so witty when they pursue men. It is said that men in love have higher IQ and EQ, isn't it the same for women? Relatively speaking, I haven't had this change, probably because I'm not pursuing Lu Chang'an at all. I just show a little affection for him occasionally, which is completely different. Isn't it normal to show affection to outstanding boys? It's not considered pursuit. I've confessed my feelings, it's not considered pursuit. Have you seen Mr. Zombie? Lu Chang'an said, it's the part where weddings collide in the foggy forest of hundreds of ghosts. They are obviously just little ghosts like water ghosts and bride ghosts, but the film shows an evil and domineering atmosphere. A feeling of "Stop talking." Bai Hui quickly turned around and covered Lu Chang'an's mouth. But Lu Chang'an didn't expect that she would stop and look back. Bai Hui collided with him. Bai Hui turned pale with fright. Her other hand grabbed his waist tightly and refused to let him go. Go forward. Lu Chang'an, you lunatic, this is the shadow of childhood, okay? Even if you let me see it again now, I will be so scared that I can't sleep. Miao Yingying bumped her teeth a few times and quickly closed her eyes and shook her head to disperse it. The movie stills that appeared involuntarily in my mind, the dazzling red, the weird dance, the weird music, the pale-faced bride sitting in the sedan with an expressionless face. Bai Hui and Miao Yingying really regretted that they should not have followed them. Let's recite poetry. Seeing Gao Dui open his mouth to say something, Miao Yingying quickly thought of a way to stop him. It would be nice to have an orange in your hand. If only he had more courage, or Bai Hui and Lu Chang'an were not present, or there was another way. So several people carried the poem and came to the foot of the mountain next to the river. Ah! Bai Hui felt something soft under her feet, screamed in fright and hid behind Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an took a flashlight and looked at it. It was a dead snake. Didn't you say there are no snakes at this time? Miao Yingying quickly took Bai Hui's hand and stood together, because Gao Dui actually used the engineer shovel in his hand to fiddle with the snake. Gao Dui also felt strange. How could there be snakes dying on the roadside during the season? Lu Chang'an bent down, turned over the snake, and took a few glances. This snake didn't have any external scars on its body, but all the essence and blood in its body was completely lost, and there was no sense of flesh and blood. It seemed that it was originally a lifeless dead thing made to look like a snake. Lu Chang'an thought of the little hens that were sent to the transport truck before, and they all looked like this in the end. He pushed the dead snake away and looked around with a flashlight. This snake was not the only one that died. There were two more that died in the same way in the grass. On the pebbles and gravel stalls by the river, there were also many white-turned river fish lying dead, as if they had been sun-dried on the rocks. Many of the trees that were originally lush in winter have lost a lot of their vitality. There's definitely something here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 727. Following the light of Lu Chang'an's flashlight, others also saw the dead fish on the river beach, as well as the forest trees that had withered and lost more vitality than other places. There seemed to be some life-stealing ghost lurking in the darkness, causing the vitality here to continue to lose. When a few people were surprised, a dried and dead fish turned white and was washed up on the beach by the river. Miao Yingying and Bai Hui couldn't help but look at each other, took a few steps back, and no longer tried to observe the abnormality, but hid behind Lu Chang'an and Gao Dui. Go back. Lu Chang'an glanced ahead and then said to Gao Dui. Why, although there was something abnormal here, Gao Dui was not very afraid. He had never given up halfway. This is not far from the robbery cave. It is very likely that the tomb robbers triggered some mechanisms in the tomb, causing the scene in front of us. A more scientific explanation may be magnetic fields, radiation, heavy metal pollution, etc., or other modern science unexplainable reasons. Lu Chang'an shook the flashlight. Safety first, don't wait. In addition to dead fish and dead snakes, small animals such as white fennel and Miao Yingying also died on the spot, turning into a shriveled object without flesh and blood. After saying that she was a cute little animal, Miao Yingying stopped talking back to Lu Chang'an. The most important thing was that she agreed with Lu Chang'an's proposal. Gao Dui, an idiot, actually asked why. Didn't he feel anything about such a terrible scene? That's right, if he had feelings, he would have been immersed in Miao Yingying's gentle embrace. Tell me, if you become like that, can you use a beauty camera to save yourself when taking selfies? Gao Dui said. Save you? Miao Yingying pulled Gao Dui and walked back. Let's go too, Bai Hui said to Lu Chang'an. She felt that Lu Chang'an's initiative to return home was not out of fear at all. Yes. Lu Chang'an looked back at the forest and shook the rope hanging on his body. Are you too scared to sleep at night? Yes, Bai Hui said immediately. Girls are very timid and are often too scared to sleep at night, so they will look for boys for protection. I'll write a talisman for you when you get back, Lu Chang'an said with confidence. The talisman I drew is a real spirit. If there are no monsters in this world, my talisman will probably be useless, but if there are, then it will definitely. The retreat of gods and ghosts can keep you safe. Bai Hui looked at Lu Chang'an in disbelief, but felt it was normal. Of course, what she expected was Lu Chang'an saying, then let me accompany you, but was this what Lu Chang'an said? Drawing a talisman for her was really Lu Chang'an's thoughtfulness. What else can't you do? After Bai Hui finished speaking, he remembered that he had said this to him countless times. Goldbach's hypothesis, Riemann's hypothesis. Lu Chang'an paused and looked at the pouting Bai Hui. Bullying you, choose one of the three. Which one do you think I can't do? Bai Hui's heart beat like a drum in the silent night, and her cheeks turned red. What did Lu Chang'an mean? She glanced sideways at the faint smile at the corner of his mouth. It was not a joke, nor did it seem like he was hiding some teasing or trap. Half of her cheeks were immersed in the dark night, and the other half was caught in the pale eyes. If you choose one of the three, Goldbach's hypothesis and Riemann's hypothesis, this will definitely not happen, even Lu Chang'an will not be able to solve these two problems. Then doesn't that mean there's only one option left? Did he mean he won't bully her? I, how do I know? Anyway, I don't know Riemann's hypothesis or Goldbach's hypothesis. Bai Hui stretched out his hand, pulled Lu Chang'an's sleeve and shook it. The night wind blew on his face, and his cheeks, but it was still hot, and I wanted to go back quickly, holding a wet towel to cover my shy face. I choose the Riemann hypothesis, Lu Chang'an said. Bai Hui's fingers tugging at his sleeve turned into pinching the skin on his arm through the cloth, and said angrily, "Do you know Goldbach's conjecture?" "I do not know either." "Then you choose one of the three." "I asked you to choose one of the three, and of course I chose randomly." "Then you won't bully me if I choose you." Bai Hui didn't want to be timid anymore, so what if he mustered up the courage to follow his own heart? Could it be that he would suck all the essence and blood from his body and turn him into the same dead fish and snake just now? A blind choice. Lu Chang'an frowned. "What's the point of a silly little girl like you if you don't use it to bully her?" "I hate it. Anyway, I made the choice for you. You can't bully me anymore." "Okay." Lu Chang'an had no objection. Seeing how readily he agreed, Bai Hui was a little worried, and with knots in her heart, she followed Lu Chang'an back to the farmhouse. Miao Yingying and Gao Duai walked quickly. After Bai Hui entered the room, he found that Miao Yingying was posting on moments, so Bai Hui went to wash up. He was a little confused about whether to use the excuse of drawing talisman before looking for Lu Chang'an. Let's chat for a while and see if he will still bully her, or if he will tease her from time to time as usual. It's not that she really doesn't want him to bully her, so just go as usual. Bai Hui scratched her hair, annoyed to death. After Lu Chang'an returned to the room, he found a pen and paper, and under Gao Dui's surprised and admiring eyes, he drew a few peace talismans, righteousness talismans, and divine descending talismans, and then posted them on the doors and windows, and gave them to Miao Yingying and Bai next door. They didn't know it was posted on Hui's door and window, and kept chattering in the room, but Lu Chang'an didn't eavesdrop. After a while, Bai Hui couldn't sleep because of fear. She walked out of the door and was stunned to find that a talisman had been posted above the door edge. No one except Lu Chang'an would do such a thing. Bai Hui opened his mouth and closed the door heavily. Angry. After Lu Chang'an waited for Gao Duai to go to bed, he lay quietly on the bed, silently reciting the book he wanted to read again. After the crescent moon had set a little to the west, he got up, put on his shoes and walked out. He still held the engineering shovel and rope, and no longer walked slowly towards the top of the mountain. After a few leaps, he arrived at the place where he had stopped. Some dead fish have been washed away on the river beach, but there are more dead fish lying on the gravel. The trees in the darkness are not more withered. It is obvious that something here is like Shangguandandan, and has no desire for flesh and blood. They are more interested in absorbing life from other objects. They only eat trees unless there is absolutely nothing to eat. Considering that Shangguandandan was probably fast asleep in the coffin at this point, Lu Chang'an did not call her for consultation. He found Li Hongfang's number and called her. "Brother Lu, what's going on?" "I'm sleeping naked." Li Hongfang's voice had a laziness and nasal sound, obviously she was woken up. "Why do you want to tell me how you slept?" Lu Chang'an asked puzzledly. "Oh, confused. I met you guys robbing a tomb last year." "What did you find in that tomb?" Lu Chang'an originally didn't care about this issue. Even if Li Hongfang found some amazing national treasure, A priceless treasure, he wouldn't care. Only ordinary humans can. You may think that if you bury something underground for hundreds of years, it will become extraordinary. But there is obviously more than just funerary objects in this tomb. There's nothing good, just some bronzes, pottery figurines, chimes. The ones with more cultural value are bamboo slips, and some gold and jade. Li Hongfang seemed to suddenly wake up a little as he said this. Brother Lu, you ask this what to do. This place is a bit evil. I want to ask you if you have encountered any evil things. Lu Chang'an just suspected that the things that draw life here were released by Li Hongfang and the others. Li Hongfang didn't say anything and remained silent. Lu Chang'an suspected that the phone was disconnected. He looked at his phone and found that it was still on the phone. Except for me, everyone who went into the cave together is dead. Li Hongfang's voice had a slight tremor. Then why are you not dead? Lu Chang'an asked. Li Hongfang opened her mouth on the other end of the phone. If it wasn't Lu Chang'an who called her, she would have pressed the button, and she would have to beat him up if she met him in the future. I don't know either, we dispersed after finishing that hole. Brother Lu, you also know the rules of our industry. It's impossible for us to get together from time to time, drink, sing karaoke and so on, unless there are new ones. We have to work hard, otherwise we are usually far apart from each other. Li Hongfang sighed softly. I also got the news by accident. Let's talk about it when we meet. Is it convenient for you to come over now? I'm at the foot of the cave you dug. Lu Chang'an was not polite when he summoned Li Hongfang. After all, he was her savior. He said that as long as he could save her, she would do it for him. She is also the one who makes cows and horses. Okay. Li Hongfang chatted with Lu Chang'an for a while and woke up. She hung up the phone and got up to get dressed. Lu Chang'an waited patiently for Li Hongfang. Instead of moving forward, he took a few steps back. Standing outside the range of the trees showing signs of decay, he stopped breathing and heartbeat, and restrained his breath. If someone walked by him at this time, they would definitely think that he was some kind of dead thing without the breath of life. He has strong vitality, which does not mean that he is spreading the fragrance of life like a blooming flower all the time. He can naturally retract and release freely. He must shield his life breath to prevent the things lurking here from discovering that something is wrong with him early. He wasn't afraid of that thing, he was just worried that it was afraid of him. After waiting for less than an hour, Lu Chang'an saw Li Hongfang. Although this was the land and forest contracted by the Gao Duai family, Li Hongfang had obviously already understood the surrounding environment. He was strolling around as if he were at home and quickly found the right location. Li Hongfang walked past Lu Chang'an, looked around a few times, and took her mobile phone to contact Lu Chang'an, before Lu Chang'an said, "Hi." Li Hongfang was startled, and turned around to see Lu Chang'an. She had just walked past where Lu Chang'an was standing. Recalling the first time she met Lu Chang'an, he was also standing behind her mysteriously. Li Hongfang pressed her chest to calm down, as if she had inherited the mantle of Li Daoren. Lu Chang'an was a descendant of the Kyushu Wind and Thunder swordsman, and naturally he also inherited the superb skills of the Kyushu Wind and Thunder swordsman. Effort. It came very quickly. Lu Chang'an praised. You are the boss. Li Hongfang was still helping Lu Chang'an and Zhou Shuling prepare the new store seriously. Of course Lu Chang'an was her boss. Li Hongfang and Zhou Shuling had more contact with each other regarding serious work matters. What you are doing now can be regarded as private matters outside of work. Generally speaking, your boss asks you to do some personal matters. Do you want to do it? Li Hongfang is not a strong employee, so of course he has to do it. What are you wearing? Lu Chang'an looked at Li Hongfang. Compared with Lu Chang'an's engineer shovel and a bundle of rope, Li Hongfang was wearing a black tights and looked very professional and capable. Miss Su gave it to me. Li Hongfang touched herself and seemed a little excited. Lu Chang'an nodded. He could already see that this was not the kind of leather uniform in the prosecutor movie, but the combat uniform that Sumei wore when Lu Chang'an and Sumei fought. It was made of fine scales. It is formed by chimera, which can greatly increase the combat effectiveness, and even has the application of black technology such as neural control and transformation. Sumei's stay in Antarctica does not mean that she will give up on other places. She will always make some arrangements. She is not the kind of character who can let everything go easily. Lu Chang'an just did not expect that she would give away this combat suit. To Li Hongfang. From your tone, I should have noticed that something is wrong here. I thought that they were all dead, and I was a little scared. I thought it would be safer to wear the suit. Li Hongfang calmed down the excitement on his face and said cautiously to Lu Chang'an. People who have died once may not be afraid of death anymore. Maybe she will be more afraid of death. Li Hongfang thinks that even if she has died once, she never wants to experience the feeling of being possessed by the god of death, slowly devouring life and waiting for death. She didn't even want to come, but the person who called her was Lu Chang'an, and Li Hongfang couldn't help it. Her awe and admiration for him came from the bottom of her heart. Once a woman feels this way about a man, she is often easily dominated by him. Li Hongfang's emotions were somewhat contradictory. On the one hand, he was afraid of encountering something that could swallow up his vitality and absorb his life and flesh. On the other hand, he was full of expectations when he was assigned by Lu Chang'an and cooperated with him. This combat uniform also shows off her figure very well. Li Hongfang is very self-aware. In terms of face, she definitely cannot compare with Lu Chang'an's girlfriends, but her figure is still very good, especially her toned abdomen and slightly muscular lines. Legs. It's not that I have any desire for Lu Chang'an, it's just that having a man who I respect and admire my figure, and being recognized by such a man is also very fulfilling and satisfying. This suit is good and shows off your figure, Lu Chang'an commented objectively. Li Hongfang also smiled and nodded. She didn't explain much about the good features of this suit. Considering the relationship between Lu Chang'an and Miss Su, he probably understood it. Why are you suddenly interested in this place today? Li Hongfang asked with concern. The companions who came to rob the cave together were all dead, and Lu Chang'an also began to pay attention to this place, so Li Hongfang had no way not to suspect that there was something wrong with this place. After digging too many graves, it is normal to encounter strange things, especially since Li Hongfang has had a special experience. She now feels that the curses, supernatural events, etc. in many tomb robbing stories may be similar to her last experience. Some abnormal creatures are causing trouble. Based on his own experience, Li Hongfang suspected that there might also be a super being like Rasputin living in this robbery cave, otherwise Lu Chang'an would not be interested. He doesn't even care about along the river during the Qingming festival, so naturally it can't be because there are any precious treasures in this tomb. Look, Lu Chang'an pointed to the dead snakes on the ground and the dead fish on the river beach. Li Hongfang did not have the same night vision ability as Lu Chang'an. She put on a pair of glasses and saw clearly what Lu Chang'an asked her to see. Li Hongfang was stunned for a moment. The dead snakes and fish in front of him seemed to have shriveled up after being exposed to the sun, with no moisture or life left in their trunks. She remembered that after she was slapped on the paw by Rasputin, the scar on her back seemed to be the same. Is Rasputin here? Li Hongfang involuntarily stepped back more than 30 meters and stood far away. This name is a nightmare for Li Hongfang. Without Lu Chang'an, Miss Su, and Shang Guandandan later taking away the remaining things from her body, Li Hongfang felt that these dead snakes and dead fish would be the look of her final tragic death. She didn't know that Rasputin had become Avrona, or that Avrona was now an Antarctic bear. Please step back further. Lu Chang'an did not expect that Li Hongfang would run so far, and even Miao Yingying and Bai Hui only took a few steps back. Li Hongfang obediently stepped back another 20 meters. Do you feel safe now? If you still feel scared, Why don't you step back another 3 to 5 miles, Lu Chang'an suggested kindly. Only then did Li Hongfang understand Lu Chang'an's joke, and her face became hot with embarrassment, but she walked back little by little. Even if Rasputin was here, but Lu Chang'an was also there, what was she afraid of? Rasputin is not here, but I suspect there is something much stronger than Rasputin. Lu Chang'an thought of the trembling bear. Rasputin, no, the bear now named Avrona actually has good fighting ability, but it depends on who he is competing with. Lu Chang'an now suspects that the things hidden in the tomb are similar to Shang Guandandan. Avrona is no match for Shang Guandandan. Even though Shang Guandandan always looks like the Queen Mother is trying her best, her incredible mysterious ability is like a monster, and even Lu Chang'an cannot understand it. When Li Hongfang heard Lu Chang'an's words, her body swayed, and the leg armor of her combat suit gripped the ground tightly, preventing her from running away instinctively. What is it? Li Hongfang asked nervously. If there really is such a thing, then the deaths of his companions are probably related to this thing. I'm not sure, let's go in and have a look. Lu Chang'an pointed to the forest in front of him and said. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 728. 1. The boundaries of the mountain forest became blurred in the dark night, as if a cold mist had condensed and settled in front of his eyes. Lu Chang'an restrained his vigorous vitality and maintained the life state of an ordinary person. Seeing Lu Chang'an walking a few meters forward, Li Hongfang followed him. He called himself here. If something happened, he wouldn't leave her alone, right? He also needs her help with store management. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang felt a lot more at ease. Although according to the usual logic, if a person doesn't even pay attention to along the river during the Qingming festival, then naturally he won't take a rice noodle shop manager to heart. Following Lu Chang'an's footsteps, Li Hongfang reported the information he had. The 5 people who went into the cave with me at the beginning had no contact after the things were divided, but on New Year's Eve, one of them contacted me. This person likes you, Lu Chang'an asked casually. How do you know? Li Hongfang was very surprised and did not deny it. It was impossible for Lu Chang'an to pay attention to her gossip. Ordinary people are always easily dominated by emotions in the special atmosphere of the festival and do things they shouldn't do. For example, according to your rules, he shouldn't contact you. It will make people think of course he is a special person to him. Lu Chang'an briefly analyzed it. When Li Hongfang heard that her companion had died, she felt that things would harm others, but she was a little unconvinced by Lu Chang'an's judgment because she did not want him to feel that she was emotionally involved, so she said, maybe he just wanted to remind him kindly. Where's me? Yes, there are still many kind-hearted people in this world, Lu Chang'an agreed. Li Hongfang opened his mouth, feeling depressed. After he contacted me, he said that he had discovered a large tomb and was going to contact other people to do it again, but found that the other 4 people were already dead. After some investigation, he found that these 4 people had died of multiple organs failure. He quickly checked his body and found that he had no symptoms on the surface, but in fact many organs in his body also showed signs of failure, so he was hospitalized quickly. That day was New Year's Eve. Li Hongfang sighed softly. Second, he died on the same day, less than 48 hours from when the symptoms were discovered during physical examination to when he died. Lu Chang'an nodded. Many diseases are like this. They are mild or even asymptomatic at first, but in fact they are slowly consuming their vitality, changing from mild or asymptomatic to severe, or even sudden death, often within a short period of time. Between days or even hours. Then why didn't you die? Have you ever thought about this problem? Lu Chang'an then asked. This was something he had said before. This time he added a second question, which made Li Hongfang feel more comfortable. She must have thought about this question and was a little scared. What was even more fortunate was that she vaguely felt that she was not dead. Not because she is in good health, has strong resistance, or is not cursed or infected. Because she met Lu Chang'an, Lu Chang'an took her to see Miss Su. Miss Su not only dealt with the secret hand of Rasputin on her, but also probably solved other problems with her body. Otherwise, why would she be safe? Li Hongfang told Lu Chang'an her analysis. Do you still remember that after Sunangzio cured you, you came to me, and then Shang Guandandan caught you, and she took something out of your body? Lu Chang'an's view was somewhat different from hers. Li Hongfang nodded. That little girl was not ordinary scary. Her hair would haunt people like a female ghost, and it could even get into her body. It scared her so much at the time. At that time, we all thought that it was something Rasputin had hidden in your body, and Sunangzio had no way to remove it. Now think about it, those things that were later pulled out by Shang Guandandan did not belong to Rasputin, but came from here. Lu Chang'an pointed forward. Listening to what Lu Chang'an said, Li Hongfang could only sigh that he was really lucky. Many things really happened one after another to save his life. If he had not promised Lu Chang'an to let him do whatever he wanted, he would not have found him later. He asked him how he planned to do whatever he wanted to her, so he would not ask her to be the store manager, she would not go to his house to discuss things, and she would not meet Shang Guandandan. Although there is no complete evidence, the dark clouds that have been lingering in his heart during this period have finally dissipated. In the past few days, Li Hongfang has also been worried about whether she will be the next person to die. Since her body had been processed twice by Sunangzio and Shang Guandandan, no matter how insidious the things in the tomb were, they couldn't take away her vitality. The only thing I worry about is that if I enter the robbery hole again, will I get something dirty again? Brother Lu. Li Hongfang hesitated. Explain. Brother Lu, if we can go back alive this time, can we ask that fairy sister to help me check again to prevent unclean things from getting into the body and hiding them? Li Hongfang asked nervously. Li Hongfang, I found that you are more afraid of death than your ancestor Li Daoren. For such a small girl, in order to save your life, you even shouted out the fairy sister. Of course Lu Chang'an knew that the fairy sister Li Hongfang spoke of was Shang Guandandan. Anyone who sees Shang Guandandan's way of manipulating her hair will feel more like a ghost than a fairy sister. Who among the serious gods is like Shang Guandandan? Li Hongfang didn't refute. In order to save her life, she agreed to let him do whatever he wanted. Why didn't she see him complaining at that time? Lu Chang'an didn't object to Li Hongfang's proposal. He could take the opportunity to observe Shang Guandandan. This little old lady could only observe Shandon when she wanted to. If you ask her to show off her abilities, she would definitely not agree. She would also suspect that Lu Chang'an had evil intentions towards her, or that he had offended the Queen Mother's majesty. After getting Lu Chang'an's consent, Li Hongfang felt much more confident, and walked in front of Lu Chang'an to lead the way, and soon arrived at the location of the robbery hole. Due to the advancement of technology, most of the robber caves in the past were mainly round. However, round robber caves are prone to collapse because the earth walls are not supported. Modern robber caves are mostly rectangular, supplemented by wooden boards for support, which is slightly safer. However, it is still very common for grave robbers to dig other people's graves and eventually dig their own graves. Lu Chang'an has also been buried, but if you really want to talk about his ability to dig holes, pangolins can't match him, so it doesn't matter. Of course, now Lu Chang'an is content to be a human being and has no intention of showing off his hole drilling ability in front of Li Hongfang. He just waved the engineer shovel in his hand. I'll go in first, you follow me. Li Hongfang pointed to the rope on Lu Chang'an's body. Tie me up with the rope. If anything happens, you can pull me back. Lu Chang'an took the rope and tied a knot around Li Hongfang's neck. Li Hongfang puffed up her cheeks as if she had difficulty breathing, and then pointed to her waist. Tie it here. Who tied her neck and thought she was a midnight bitch? I'm teasing you. Lu Chang'an smiled, so that you don't get too nervous. Lu Chang'an untied the slip knot, tied the rope around Li Hongfang's waist, and pulled it a little harder. It was very strong. This not only refers to the knotting of the rope being stable and strong, but also refers to the strong muscles on Li Hongfang's waist, and the previous description of her body description. Li Hongfang pulled the rope around her waist and climbed in from the thief's cave. With this combat uniform as protection, even if the robber's cave suddenly collapsed, her life would be safe until Lu Chang'an pulled her out. The air in the tomb had been changed the last time he entered the cave, so Li Hongfang didn't waste any time and climbed in quickly. He said to Lu Chang'an, who was behind him, "Brother Lu, we dug up a black snake last time, which is a non-venomous python. It almost swallowed a man. You killed it?" "No, it ran away. In fact, we saved it. Otherwise, with the current state of dead snakes and fish outside, the hibernating black snake would also be dead. You robbed a tomb and also saved a nationally protected animal. Do you want me to give you a thumbs up?" Li Hongfang stopped talking. She went in and out of this hole many times, and some of the places that might have collapsed still had the original supporting boards. Soon Li Hongfang and Lu Chang'an entered the tomb, and Lu Chang'an let out a long breath. He had been following Li Hongfang just now, because her butt was twisting around, and Lu Chang'an had been worried that she would fart. Fortunately not. There is a distance from the cave entrance to the bottom of the tomb, and there is still a combination ladder made of ultralight materials. It seems to be much more advanced than the combination bamboo ladders of the Xiling warriors. Li Hongfang and Lu Chang'an both jumped down from the entrance of the cave. It was obvious that they did not fully estimate the direction when digging the cave, but it was good to be able to get through the hole to the tomb in one go. Lu Chang'an took a flashlight and shined it around. Li Hongfang judged that this was a large tomb from the Eastern Han Dynasty. As a professional, her judgment was correct. This was also true based on Lu Chang'an's somewhat familiar experience. Due to the long history of the large tombs in the Han Dynasty, tomb robbers were rampant in the past dynasties, resulting in a situation where 9 of the 10 chambers of the Han tombs were empty. Countless ancient objects were scattered in all directions, and very few of them were dug up by tomb robbers and still preserved in the country. The tomb of Marquis Haihan of So-and-so in the next province was well preserved thanks to the earthquake that caused the entire tomb to be flooded. Such a large underwater tomb is not something that tomb robbers can enter. The tomb in front of him was well preserved, but Lu Chang'an was a little confused. Li Hongfang was a professional. Could it be that no other professional in the past dynasties could discover its existence? Lu Chang'an didn't think too much about this issue. What was important was whether he could find the thing that could swallow life and blood in the tomb. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an's vitality became a little stronger. He knew that he was extremely delicious now, more tempting than Tang monk's meat. The tomb chamber is very large, as wide as an underground hall. The blue stones under the feet are flat and tightly clasped and extremely thick. There should have been brightly colored murals on the walls of the tomb chamber, but after Li Hongfang and his group took away some funerary objects, they obviously had no intention of protecting this place. With the introduction of fresh air, the murals on the tomb walls have oxidized and fallen off a lot, and some of the remaining pictures are no longer fresh in color. Lu Chang'an and Li Hongfang were in the main tomb chamber. He had no way of judging how many of the funerary objects had been removed, but the remaining large chimes and giant chariots and horses all showed the status of the owners during their lifetimes. This coffin. Lu Chang'an turned his head when he heard this, only to find that Li Hongfang's voice was trembling, his teeth were chattering against the ground, and he was pointing directly at the coffin in the center of the tomb. This tomb uses a stone chamber as the coffin. There is no coffin outside the coffin. It is placed directly in the center of the tomb. Lu Chang'an originally thought that the coffin was a certain distance above the ground because there was a base below. But now he took a closer look and found that there was a pedestal underneath the coffin. There seems to be a coffin as well. 2 coffins stacked together? Lu Chang'an was a little surprised. He had never seen such a situation. Some were buried together, and they were placed side by side in the same tomb. Based on their relationship during life, it was decided whose coffin should be placed on the left, whose coffin should be placed on the right, or whether they should be placed in the front or in the back. I've never seen them stacked together. Isn't it like this last time you came here? Lu Chang'an asked. If he had seen 2 coffins stacked together last time he came here, Li Hongfang would not have the same expression as he does now. No. We only saw the upper coffin last time, the lower one, but not the lower one. Li Hongfang gritted her teeth and made sure that her memory was correct. 2. If 2 coffins are stacked together, even ordinary people who have no understanding of feng shui tombs will feel something is wrong. The huge tomb was dark and silent. The beam of flashlight pierced the darkness, but made the surrounding darkness even deeper. It was like an abandoned corner in the universe, so cold that there was no sense of the passage of time. The coffin above has mottled paint marks, revealing the dense wood inside, with stripes all over it. It is obviously not an ordinary wood. The coffin is nearly 2.5 meters long and 1 meter wide. When ordinary dignitaries are buried, the coffin is often only 2 meters long. Meters 23, 70, or 80 centimeters wide. The coffin below has a completely different feel in terms of its condition. It has obviously not been eroded by oxidation. If you look closely at the material, it seems to be bronze. When it comes to bronze coffins in the past, Lu Chang'an can of course talk eloquently, from bronze smelting to bronze burial culture, especially focusing on Zhen Yuhao. The first thing that comes to mind now is of course Shang Guandandan's coffin. Shang Guandandan calls it little coffin, coffin, treasure, and so on. In fact, Shang Guandandan's treasure is not a real bronze coffin. It has a huge origin and involves the human civilization that disappeared hundreds of millions of years ago. That highly developed human civilization at that time only produced 2 pairs, and one was in Tessie. The one in the hand was buried under the ice cap of the Antarctic continent by Lu Chang'an. The other one was in Lu Chang'an's utility room. From time to time, Shang Guandandan mentioned it or lay down on it. It barely had a sense of existence and was not mentioned by anyone. Forget. Tesla said there were only 2 pairs. If her information is completely reliable and there are no omissions, then the coffin in front of her may really be just a bronze coffin, and may not be as magical as Shang Guandandan Tesla's, and it may not be called the Ark of Eternity. Tesla and Shang Guandandan are both slender and petite types. Their cabinets of eternity are only 2 meters long and more than 1 meter wide, but the overall size is not as big as the bronze coffin in front of them. This can also prove that this bronze coffin is not the Ark of Eternity. It is extremely difficult to make such a heaven-defying artifact. How can it be expanded so much at will? The coffin in front of you is full of ancient design. Its surface is painted in bright green, pink brown, red, yellow orange, and gray colors. The painted pattern seems to have just been written, which is somewhat similar to Shang Guandandan's treasure. Except for the size, the outer patterns seem to be exactly the same. Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone and looked at the pictures of the coffins he had taken before, which confirmed this. He had taken a photo of the coffin before and used it as a social software avatar for Shang Guandandan. After Shang Guandandan became proficient in using her mobile phone, she changed these avatars, those selfies of her with makeup on. In Lu Chang'an's opinion, it would be better to use the coffin as a portrait. Where did the coffin below come from? Li Hongfang spoke with chattering teeth. She thought of many scenes in tomb robbery TV series and movies. There must be a big boss in this mysterious coffin, right? No matter how strong Lu Chang'an is, he is just a human being. If a 1,000-year-old zombie queen jumps out of the coffin, he can only rely on the black technology combat suit he wears. Technology versus zombies, I don't know which one is more powerful, Li Hongfang was thinking wildly. I don't know. Lu Chang'an was realistic and walked over without making random guesses to show that he was knowledgeable. It seems that the things that swallow up the vitality and blood around them are in these two coffins, especially the bronze coffin below. Be careful. Li Hongfang had just finished saying that when she found herself following him involuntarily. It turned out that he had not let go of the rope and the other end was still tied around her waist. Li Hongfang pulled hard on the rope to stand still, but he seemed to be using no force, but he couldn't stand at all, and there was no way he could pull him closer to the coffin. Have you ever opened the coffin above? Lu Chang'an circled around the coffin and turned around to see Li Hongfang following him step by step. He was scared to death just now, but now he didn't run far away, which was commendable for his courage. Lu Chang'an nodded with some appreciation. Yes, didn't I tell you before? We found a letter of complaint here. The letter of complaint was found in the coffin above. I don't know how it was processed. The owner of the tomb took it. It is very well preserved in my hand and the handwriting is clear and readable. Li Hongfang was very impressed. That time Miss Su took her to a nearby farmhouse. Miss Su hid in the room and got angry. She ordered Li Hongfang to use a telescope to monitor Lu Chang'an and a girl named Bai Hui. The girl's bitch impressed Li Hongfang deeply. What? Falling into the water, drowning and fainting routines were all guessed by Miss Su accurately. Li Hongfang suspected that Miss Su guessed so clearly, and she probably knew the tricks very well. She might have used them on Lu Chang'an, but Li Hongfang didn't dare to say so, nor did she dare to ask. Later that night, Lu Chang'an came to see Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang confessed that she was arranged by Miss Su. At the same time, they talked about the ache appointment removal. Li Hongfang told Lu Chang'an about the Book of Complaint. I remember you said that the Book of Complaint to the Earth was written by a man named Xiao Aiha, who made the tomb owner a king somewhere in the underworld. Generally, only those with the highest status in the world, such as the emperor, are qualified to write such a Book of Complaint to the Earth book. The Lord of the Underworld can make people king. Lu Chang'an remembered this. There is no emperor named Xiao Aoho in history, and emperors generally do not take such nicknames. Ho, as a status level, is higher than the emperor. It's too low a level. Not really, maybe it's self-deprecating. For example, Hai Hanyu was once an emperor. There is no problem for him to write a letter of complaint to the land. He nicknamed himself Xiao Aiha, which is also self-deprecating for the occasion. Li Hongfang thought quickly and said, I'm not saying that Xiao Aoho must be Hai Hanho, just take that useless emperor as an example. Lu Chang'an looked at Li Hongfang expressionlessly. It's a pity that many of the simple books are not in my hands. After all, we are not doing archaeological work. After we get the things, we should focus on getting rid of them instead of keeping them in our hands for study. Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an's expression and felt a little panicked. Otherwise, I'll leave it to you. You must have discovered something, mainly because you were only interested today. It turned out that I thought you didn't pay attention to this tomb. I'm not interested in archaeology, I'm only interested in the things in the coffin. Lu Chang'an was too lazy to argue with her. Not only did this man throw dirty water on the 9 provinces wind and thunder swordsman, he also mocked the Marquis of Haihun. For Li Daoran's sake, let her continue to live fully. I suspect that you are talking about something evil. It is in the coffin below. Li Hongfang's attention was mainly focused on the coffin below. She recalled it many times and determined that there was only one coffin here when she entered the tomb last time. The coffin below, how did it appear here? So weird. I don't know. Let's take a look at the coffin above first. Lu Chang'an stretched out his fingers and flicked open the coffin cover. The heavy coffin cover fell to the ground. The coffin had already been opened once, so there was no need to be careful. Lu Chang'an took a flashlight and shined it in. There was a burst of light shining in the coffin, which seemed to be filled with gold and jade. Walk. Li Hongfang's voice was full of panic, and he pulled Lu Chang'an hard. Lu Chang'an didn't know why, but he didn't resist. Li Hongfang pulled him and jumped back, like a cat that found a cucumber behind him. Li Hongfang stood close to the wall of the tomb, raised his head and glanced at the robbery hole above his head and the ladder beside him. He felt that he could evacuate at any time, and then he took a big breath. Lu Chang'an could hear her beating heart. She was wearing a combat suit that fit her body, and her chest and abdomen were rising and falling very obviously. She was now like a cat with a stress response. All she had to do was straighten her hair, but the skin under her combat suit was go up, the hair on the head must stand on end. What's the problem? Lu Chang'an took 2 steps to the side, keeping a little distance from her, and asked doubtfully. Didn't you see clearly? There was a gold jade suit in the coffin just now. When we came last time, there was only a mummy wearing an ordinary burial suit in the coffin. Li Hongfang stared at Lu Chang'an in horror. She was not professional. Not enough, I was shocked, but I had never encountered such a strange situation. A second coffin appeared out of thin air. A jade garment with golden threads appeared out of thin air. Interesting. Of course Lu Chang'an saw it clearly, but he didn't expect that this golden jade suit would also appear this time. In this way, when Li Hongfang and his group came in for the first time, they saw the jade clothes with gold threads. They probably took them away a long time ago. This thing is not too rare, but there is absolutely no reason to let it go. Many cultural relics are orphans. This is the only one and no other similar items exist in the world. The gold-lined jade clothing is different. It can be called a jade box. According to different specifications, there are also silver-lined jade clothing and copper-lined jade clothing, corresponding to different levels of status. There are currently more than a dozen pieces of various jade garments existing in the country. It seems to be a lot, but it does not affect its precious value. If this thing can be circulated and auctioned, such as Lu Sheng's one, it will definitely cost 1.8 billion. Not coming down. This us, we may have traveled through time. We must have appeared in the world of Ghost blowing the lamp. Li Hongfang moved over, grabbed Lu Chang'an's arm tightly, and looked around in panic. If it weren't for Ghost blowing the lamp, how could such a strange scene happen in the world? Then you can learn from Shirley Yang's calmness. Can you have some professionalism? Lu Chang'an found that she was so frightened that she was unconscious. She even said words about traveling into the world of other people's novels. After saying that, Lu Chang'an opened his bow from left to right and slapped Li Hongfang's face dozens of times, hitting her acupuncture points, stimulating her facial nerves, and at the same time hitting her brain with force, causing her brain to secrete corresponding hormones in a coordinated manner, allowing her to regain her calmness and peace. Normal thinking ability. This is the scientific reason why men are often slapped by women when they are angry. As for why it's not an example of a man slapping a woman in the face when she gets angry. Li Hongfang touched her cheek and felt that her mind had finally become clearer. She was no longer dominated by fear, and the remaining fear had just turned into vigilance. Are you awake? Lu Chang'an asked. Li Hongfang nodded. Are you sure you only saw mummies wearing ordinary burial clothes last time? Lu Chang'an asked. Confirmed. The mummy is holding the Book of Complaint to the Land written by Xiao Aoho. Go and have a look. Lu Chang'an threw away the rope in his hand. Li Hongfang quickly untied the rope around his waist and followed Lu Chang'an. It was really strange that he had been slapped countless times by him. Not only did he not feel angry, but he was able to stay rational amidst the fear. She knew very well that it was much safer to follow Lu Chang'an now than to run away randomly by herself. 3. What Lu Chang'an saw was actually jade clothing with gold threads. He knew this very well. Before Cao Pi ordered the ban on the use of jade clothing, there were already many in the royal and imperial tombs of the Han dynasty. Jinwei jade clothing often uses several kilograms of gold wire and thousands of jade pieces of various sizes. These jade are all white jade and sapphire from Hotan. There are also fine carvings on the jade pieces, which can be called a peerless art. Taste. The point is, how did the original ordinary burial clothes turn into gold-lined jade clothes? Could it be that after Li Hongfang and his gang left, someone else came in and caused such a thing? What's the point of doing this? Just to scare Li Hongfang? Others who stumbled upon this robbery cave would not be frightened because they had no idea of the original scene in the tomb. Lu Chang'an couldn't understand, so he didn't think about it anymore. Life is like this, not every problem needs to be solved. Sometimes you will meet some people who like to chase others to find out the truth, as if they must understand. The curiosity is so strong. Why don't you catch Goldbach's conjecture to get curious and find out the truth? Lu Chang'an walked to the coffin and stopped shining the flashlight. The bright light that filled the coffin just now was the effect of the golden jade clothes under strong light. No wonder this coffin is so big. The gold jade clothes contained inside are also extremely huge. The length is estimated to be 2 meters. It is estimated that when the body inside was alive, it was more than 1.8 meters tall. Lu Chang'an reached out and grabbed Jin Luyi's head and shook it. "Brother Lu, what are you doing?" Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an in surprise. Seeing something like a jade dress with golden threads appear in the world, who wouldn't carefully detect and observe it? "I wanted to see who was inside, but then I remembered that the gold jade suit was put in after the person died, and then the various interfaces were connected with gold wire, so I couldn't open the mask at will." Lu Chang'an, of course I know how to wear gold jade clothes. Generally speaking, only the emperor and the first-generation princes can wear gold-threaded jade clothes. However, many etiquettes in the Han dynasty were not customized until the late Western Han dynasty. Therefore, in the early and middle Western Han dynasty, ordinary princes and kings also wore gold-threaded jade clothes after they died. Jade clothes. Li Hongfang judged that this tomb was the tomb of the Eastern Han dynasty, but now the tomb is so weird. No one can say whether the owner of the golden jade clothes is an emperor or prince of the Western Han dynasty, an emperor of the Eastern Han dynasty, or some other monster. So I still have to take it apart and take a look. So Lu Chang'an pulled hard and tore off the mask on the front of his head, causing the connecting gold wires to break. Anyway, the gold-lined jade garment in front of me is not necessarily more precious and sophisticated than those that have been born, and there is nothing petty about it. If you want to collect it, just wear the gold thread, and it will not affect the quality and research. Li Hongfang saw that Lu Chang'an didn't take the golden jade clothes seriously at all. Her expression changed drastically. "Brother, with such a rough style, are you a bandit warlord who used to work part-time as a tomb robber?" But now that Lu Chang'an had pulled off the mask, Li Hongfang still wore glasses with enhanced night vision and looked under the mask to see a jade-carved head. Li Hongfang almost thought she had traveled back in time to Ghost blowing the lamp again, because one of the books in the series talked about the tomb of King Xian in Yunnan. King Xian's head turned into jade and merged with the Muchen bead. The carving of this jade carving head is very fine, with a serious facial expression, exuding majesty and regular features. The first thing Li Hongfang thought of was that the gentleman Jian Yu Buchan might have looked like this before he got the sword manual to ward off evil. As a traditional craftsman and lover of traditional culture, Li Hongfang has certainly learned some facial features. Judging from the facial features of this jade carving, this person is completely noble and indescribable. However, he also feels that this rich and noble temperament is sinister. He is not like Li Hongfang. A face that can be seen through half a bucket of water. Wang Mang. Lu Chang'an took out the jade carving head from the jade robe and recognized who the jade carving head was based on. The first emperor in history to usurp the throne, Li Hongfang could not recognize that this was Wang Mang's appearance, but she knew Wang Mang's deeds. The Western Han dynasty gave birth to the first emperor who was dethroned, and also gave birth to the first a powerful official who usurped the throne. Lu Chang'an glanced at Li Hongfang indifferently. "You are really knowledgeable, but you don't know that Wang Mang was born on December 12th, right?" The current Double 12 shopping festival is to commemorate Wang Mang. Seeing Lu Chang'an's plain expression, with no smile in his eyes or at the corners of his mouth, Li Hongfang could not judge whether what he said was true or false, and muttered, "I have never heard of such a statement at all." "You've heard it now." Lu Chang'an put down the jade carving head in his hand, picked up the gold jade garment and shook it. As expected, there is nothing inside except this jade carving head. You seem to know that when you see the jade carving head, the golden jade clothes are empty except for the head. Li Hongfang didn't think much about the relationship between Wang Mang and the Double 12 shopping festival. She was more curious about Lu Chang'an's reason for his judgment. "Aren't you talking nonsense? When Wang Mang died, his head was cut off, part of his body was eaten, and most of it was missing. Where did he get his complete body and put it in a gold jade suit?" Lu Chang'an casually put it. The upper coffin was pushed open, revealing the top of the coffin below. Probably all the strange scenes in this tomb had more to do with the coffin below. Lu Chang'an took a flashlight and took a photo. On the top of the coffin was an impressive picture of Lu Chang'an. The dragon and the phoenix faced each other. The two dragons' heads faced each other and were located at the top of the picture. The dragon's body coiled to both sides, and its tail extended to the left and right corners. There are two phoenixes spreading their wings and trying to fly, biting the dragon body. It was exactly the same as the pattern on Shang Guandandan's coffin, and the evil spirit of unfaithful murder rushed towards his face. What does this coffin have to do with Shang Guandandan? Lu Chang'an took another look at the other coffin that fell to the ground, the empty jade clothes with gold threads and the jade-carved head of Wang Mang, and suddenly remembered Wang Mang's 3 reign titles: Founder of the Kingdom, Tianfeng, and Emperor of the Earth. Tianfeng. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 729. Lu Chang'an is very familiar with the word Tianfeng because he is a mahjong master. As a Tianfeng 10th Dan in the Japanese competitive mahjong platform, Lu Chang'an feels that his level is more than enough. It's just that Lu Chang'an prefers to kill everyone in the community and bully old men and women. He enjoys it and doesn't think about getting any ranks or trophies to prove himself. Just like 20 years ago, when the online chess and card battle platform emerged, Lu Chang'an did not play much. This kind of battle activity was to suppress the target in person, watch his acquaintances and friends scratch their heads, think hard, and finally get angry. It would be interesting to refuse to admit defeat and drop the harsh words and fight another day. It would be more interesting to fight another day and kill the opponent so hard that they flip the table away. What's boring is that when many people see the word Tianfeng now, they only know mahjong, but they don't know that when Tianfeng appeared as an era name, Japan was in the Yayoi period, relying on the Chinese immigrants from the Qin and Han dynasties to develop the game. We were able to quickly enter a farming and civilized society. Before that, it was just a primitive society, and we gradually started to live like human beings. Lu Chang'an's thoughts spread to meaningless things for a while, and then he started thinking about important issues. Is there any relationship between Wang Mang and Shang Guandandan? Does Tianfeng mean the phoenix on the coffin that attacks the dragon? The reason why Lu Chang'an felt that dragon-eating phoenix was related to Shang Guandandan and Wang Mang was because the empress dowagers in the Han dynasty had too much influence on the throne. Shang Guandandan won't talk about it, he has experienced it himself. As for Wang Mang, let's talk about Wang Mang's aunt Wang Zhenjun. Unlike Shang Guandandan, who was able to suppress the royal family and was unparalleled in the world, Wang Zhenjun came from an ordinary background, but she managed to create a powerful Wang family with 1 family, 10 princes, and 5 major sima. Wang Mang also had. Only with this background was he able to usurp the throne. Without such a background, Wang Mang would not have been able to become emperor. Wang Zhenjun, like other queen mothers, held the jade seal of the kingdom in her hand, but she was not very willing to hand it over to Wang Mang, so she casually smashed the jade seal of the kingdom to the ground. Even though a corner of the imperial seal was missing, Wang Mang did not mind it and ascended the throne holding the missing corner of the imperial seal. Does the dragon-eating phoenix refer to the queen mothers who were related to the deposed emperor? For example, Shang Guandandan and Wang Zhenjun. Is it Wang Zhenjun who is lying in the coffin underneath? Official history records that Wang Zhenjun was buried with Emperor Yuan of Han Dynasty in Weiling, but now Shang Guandandan appears in Lu Chang'an's home, so it is normal for Wang Zhenjun's coffin to appear in the mountains of Gao Dui's home. This coffin, why did this coffin appear here? Li Hongfang was about to ask why Wang Mang's body was eaten. Now that he saw the colorful paintings on the top of the coffin, he couldn't help being surprised and quickly looked around carefully. Other patterns, this is clearly the coffin in Lu Chang'an's home. Li Hongfang originally had the idea of the coffin and successfully entered the transport vehicle, but was caught by Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an didn't kill her by the way, so they had the experience of exploring the Ake appointment together today. Li Hongfang thought about it and felt quite emotional. But now is not the time to lament this, the point is why this coffin appears here. Or is there another pair of identical coffins in the world? Li Hongfang had heard of sisters dressing up and brothers dressing up. Is it possible that there are still people who like to bury them in exactly the same coffins? No. Lu Chang'an knew what Li Hongfang meant, shook his head, and tapped the coffin lid with his fingers. Not that high-end. How could it be? This one is so big. Li Hongfang was in awe of Lu Chang'an, but she did not lose her judgment. She was not a little wife like Zhou Shuling who obeyed Lu Chang'an's orders. Women are superficial. They only see the size and cannot feel the connotation. Compared with Shang Guandandan's coffin, this one is like a silver pewter spearhead. Is this also a living coffin? Li Hongfang continued his analysis. Although no abnormal celestial phenomena were observed, the dead animals around here are probably all because of it. That's not wrong. Who could be there? Li Hongfang looked at Wang Mang's jade carving. Did Wang Mang actually die when he was hunted down, and the real Wang Mang survived? I understand. The last time I came in, what I saw was the corpse must be the person who later protected Wang Mang, because he had performed meritorious service, so Wang Mang wrote him a letter of complaint and made this person king in the underworld. As for Wang Mang, he keeps his name anonymous. Thinking that he once ruled the world, but now he is far away from the court and has given himself the title of Xiao Ho. The original coffin disappeared, and these two coffins replaced it. It was the mechanism arranged by Wang Mang in the tomb. As long as someone comes in and touches the mechanism, it will become what it is now. Wang Mang himself hid here to form a living coffin. Once the mechanism was triggered, he began to absorb the vitality and blood around him to prepare for resurrection. But after all, he has been dead for almost 2,000 years. It is estimated that he will recover from the living dead state after so many years. It will take hundreds of millions of human lives. After speaking, Li Hongfang found that Lu Chang'an was looking at her with a peaceful and slightly admiring look. Go on. Lu Chang'an motioned for her to continue. I'm done, Li Hongfang said sarcastically. You go write a novel. I think you are quite talented. When you sign the contract, I will give you a reward. Lu Chang'an usually rarely rewards when he reads novels. After all, he has never had a luxurious lifestyle. Subscription is a book, just do your part. The same is true for Shang Guandandan. It's not that her lifestyle is the same as Lu Chang'an's, it's just that she is really poor and doesn't have the ability. Li Hongfang lowered her cheeks. He didn't pay attention to her analysis at all, but she felt that it was reasonable, so she couldn't help but said, then how much will you reward me? $5. If it's not Wang Mang, he should be someone related to Wang Mang, his father Wang Jin. Li Hongfang stopped answering his words and pointed to the bronze coffin. What do you think? I'll open it and take a look. Lu Chang'an no longer flicked the top of the coffin with his fingers, but pushed hard, and the coffin panels opened smoothly. Shang Guandandan. Li Hongfang's pupils were dilated and she exclaimed. She quickly blinked her eyes and stared at the person in the coffin as if she was charmed. Lu Chang'an was also observing carefully. The woman in the coffin was very beautiful, very similar to Shang Guandandan, and her temperament was slightly green, but she was slightly more mature than Shang Guandandan. She looks like she is only 17 or 18 years old, and she is slightly taller than Shang Guandandan. Above her forehead is a hollow gold hair ornament with jade, and neat bangs. This is the same as when Shang Guandandan was lying in the coffin. General appearance. Her hair is also divided into a bun, high on the top of her head, and the rest of her hair is twisted together like a string of elm trees, interlocking one by one, with thin golden leaf birds and complicated hollow hair bands in the middle. She is wearing a plain gauze cicada dress with gold and jade ornaments, which is luxurious and luxurious. Under the cicada dress is a black and red brocade robe with various mysterious and elegant patterns on it, exuding a mysterious atmosphere, as if she is in some kind of heaven. Dress. The dress is almost exactly the same as that of Shang Guandandan, but the details are slightly different. On her face, her eyebrows were straight and sharp, and the corners of her eyes were raised, exuding a majestic and awe-inspiring look that was even more majestic than Shang Guandandan's. If she is Shang Guandandan, then who is that in my family? Lu Chang'an also had the same doubts. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 730. For Shang Guandandan at home, Lu Chang'an had always focused on the Eternal Cabinet. The Eternal Cabinet is extremely strong and is a scientific and technological achievement that is difficult for modern humans to achieve. It condensed the essence of the top civilization of the Rhodanian continent era, and only two of them were created. One Eternal Cabinet belongs to Tesla and has been photographed under the ice cap of the Antarctic continent by Lu Chang'an. The other one is located somewhere in Shang Guandandan and belongs to Shang Guandandan. The Eternal Cabinet seems to be controlled only by its owner, so even Tesla, the last inheritor of the Rhodania continent, did not take away the Eternal Cabinet next to Shang Guandandan. Probably for the same reason, Tesla captured Avrona, Little Snake, Sunangziu, and Mrs. Karnstein, but did not take action against Shang Guandandan. It's not that Tesla has no interest in Shang Guandandan, it's just that Shang Guandandan also owns the Eternal Cabinet, leaving Tesla helpless. Lu Chang'an felt that Shang Guandandan was more mysterious than Tesla. Tesla is just the inheritor of ancient civilization. From the time of her birth to the present, it has been about 1,080,000,000 years. She is still young, but there is nothing mysterious about it, and other things on the earth known as living fossils there is no difference. Shang Guandandan is different. She is not a living fossil, but a life equivalent to super evolution. Even if she doesn't use any technological power to arm herself, she is extremely powerful. Sunangziu was unable to help Li Hongfang cure the curse. Sunangziu did not even discover the problem left in Li Hongfang's body. Not only was it discovered by Shang Guandandan, but it was also cured by her. Shang Guandandan's mysterious hair and strength like a wild beast far surpassed that of Aurora and Mrs. Karnstein. Lu Chang'an can be sure that he cannot be pushed away by Aurora or Mrs. Karnstein, or grabbed and manipulated at will. Only Shang Guandandan has this ability. Before seeing the living coffin in front of him, Lu Chang'an once thought that it was just Shang Guandandan using the Eternal Cabinet to achieve various abilities. Now his mind has changed. Could it be that Shang Guandandan is special in himself? If the similarity between the girl in front of him and the coffin owned by the girl and Shang Guandandan is just a coincidence, Lu Chang'an doesn't believe it. Except for the coincidence that the teammates you match are always pigs when playing games, most of the other coincidences in this world are calculated and taken advantage of. The one in your family must be Shang Guandandan. The one in front of you may be a descendant of Shang Guandandan. Li Hongfang calmed down. She had followed Shang Guandandan for a long time, so she had studied the history for a long time. All kinds of evidence and information she has learned prove this, and her own long-term inherent knowledge cannot be overturned at will. Shang Guandandan is from the Western Han Dynasty, and the tomb in front of you is from the Eastern Han Dynasty, and Wang Mang has appeared there. Those that could not have existed earlier are fakes, and the ones here are genuine. Li Hongfang further judged. Descendants. Who are they born from? Lu Chang'an frowned. Probably with Lu He. Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an with confidence, showing a joking smile like when he heard the secret of lewdness. Lu Chang'an raised his hand, took a deep breath, and did not slap Li Hongfang to death for the time being. This is just a grave. If you kill people here, you don't even need to dig a hole. Why do you say that? Lu Chang'an asked calmly when he saw that Li Hongfang seemed to be waiting for his praise. Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an. The upright and peaceful aura of the young man in front of him always made Li Hongfang feel close to him. His extraordinary charm, the occasional slightly raised corner of his mouth, and the faint recognition in his tone would make people like to express themselves in front of him in order to win. It is satisfying to receive his praise. So Li Hongfang calmly stated his analysis. First of all, we analyzed based on the clues in the tomb. At first I thought this was the real tomb of Wang Mang, but now it has been proven that it is not. There is only Wang Mang's tomb here, so this woman is probably someone who has a close relationship with Wang Mang. Well, go on. Lu Chang'an nodded. He thought so too. What Li Hongfang said next would determine whether a corpse would be added to the tomb. Wang Mang is extremely self-disciplined and has a good reputation. For his own reputation, he would even force his son to death. Such people often disdain women, then the woman who can be buried with Wang Mang's tomb will definitely not be him. His lover, but another woman who was extremely important to him and played a vital role in usurping the throne, is qualified to be buried with his tomb. Wang Zhenjun. Lu Chang'an knew what Li Hongfang was going to say. Lu Chang'an also thought that the woman lying in the coffin was Wang Zhenjun, but his reasons were completely different from Li Hongfang. Yes, Li Hongfang looked at the woman in the coffin with excitement, and then said, it can be said that without Wang Zhenjun, the Empress Dowager's aunt, Wang Mang would not be qualified to usurp the throne. You mean, Wang Zhenjun is the daughter of Lu He and Shang Guandandan? Lu Chang'an squinted his eyes, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and looked at Li Hongfang with slight admiration. With this idea, let's replan your career. If she is not the daughter of Lu He and Shang Guandandan, how come she looks so similar to Shang Guandandan? Li Hongfang felt a little sweet, being praised by the man she admired, and she couldn't suppress her pride. I have a lot of evidence. You say? Li Hongfang continued, it doesn't matter that Wang Zhenjun was the last Empress Dowager of the Western Han Dynasty, and that she was very far away from Shang Guandandan's era. People who understand history will know that when Wang Zhenjun was born, Shang Guandandan was actually just a young woman. 16 or 17 years old, minus the 10 months of pregnancy, was the year Lu He and Shang Guandandan met. The fact that Lu He was deposed is very strange. The crimes Huo Guang instigated the ministers to ask Shang Guandandan to depose Lu He are not enough to really depose an emperor. So what kind of crimes are they to the emperor? They just used these trivial matters cover up earth-shattering secrets. One of Lu He's crimes is to play with the Queen Mother's pony carriage. This is a metaphor for his real crime. In fact, Lu He was not riding a pony carriage, he was riding the Queen Mother. This is something Huo Guang, who is more powerful than Yi Yin, cannot tolerate at all. Yi Yin is only training the emperor, Huo Guang thought. Can this bastard still be trained? Just scrap it and replace it with another one. Lu He dared to cross the Queen Mother's pony carriage, what else can't he do? This is the same as the traditional concept of human ethics. A father-in-law cannot sit on the wife's bed. A father-in-law was found to even want to sit on the wife's bed, Everyone knows, does he just want to sit on his wife's bed? He wants to pick up the ashes. Does Lu He just want to play with the Queen Mother's pony carriage? He wants to play with the Queen Mother, for the same reason. Lu Chang'an raised his eyebrows, his eyes glaring at Li Hongfang like laser knives. If you think this is just a coincidence or far-fetched, listen to me again. Wang Zhenjun's life is completely the protagonist template. What is the protagonist template? That is, everything that is beneficial to her will happen at the right time, leading her to go to the final peak, right? Li Hongfang was looking at the woman in the coffin, concentrating on sorting out her thoughts. Lu Chang'an looked at the woman in the coffin and bent down. He originally planned to carefully examine the inside of the woman's body. After hearing Li Hongfang's analysis, he actually had a hesitant thought. Then he came back to his senses. How could he? Are you really listening to her nonsense? When Wang Zhenjun was 14 or 15 years old and it was time to get married, he had just agreed to marry her, but before they could get through, the other party died. Later, King Dongping wanted to marry her, and King Dongping died too. Think about it, even the princes and princes, a woman who is not even qualified to marry. Later, Wang Zhenjun entered the palace. At this time, Emperor Xian was in power. Who was Emperor Xian? He was a capable emperor comparable to Emperor Wu. He was even better in the field of political power, strengthening the country and enriching the people. He could. Don't you know Wang Zhenjun's true identity? Emperor Xian was very filial. Anyway, he and Shang Guandandan were not related by blood, so he sent Wang Zhenjun to the prince. Don't say this relationship is messy. Emperor Xian's empress is still Shang Guandandan's aunt. Doesn't it mean she has to serve Shang Guandandan honestly? The prince had a wife before. As for how his wife died, I don't want to go into the conspiracy theory. But if someone paved the way for Wang Zhenjun to enter the palace, I completely believe it. I will talk about the reason later. Wang Zhenjun was arranged by the queen to meet with the crown prince. In order to hide it from others, a total of 5 maids went into the palace to choose a concubine for the crown prince. The crown prince is not stupid. He must be honest before he ascends the throne. He can choose whoever his father and mother ask him to choose. Who? So he chose Wang Zhenjun. The prince actually doesn't like Wang Zhenjun. He has had many women. In 1989, it's been almost 10 years since he had a son. As soon as Wang Zhenjun came, he got pregnant. Tell me, is there anything going on here? A prince. A prince who shoulders the important responsibility of carrying on the royal family lineage. There should have been countless women and imperial doctors working hard for him to carry on the family lineage. After racking their brains for almost 10 years without success, Wang Zhenjun was pregnant as soon as he came. This is the same as playing mahjong. As soon as it's served on the table, just grab a handful of tianhu. Why don't others play with it? When Li Hongfang said this, he sighed with emotion and looked at the woman in the coffin with envy, because before Wang Zhenjun became the crown princess, the prince could not have children. Isn't this the protagonist's template? After the death of Emperor Xian, Wang Zhenjun she directly became the queen. At this time, Emperor Han Yuan was in power, but Shang Guandandan was still there. Even if Emperor Han Yuan liked the other son Fu Ziyi gave him, in the end Wang Zhenjun's son would inherit the throne. Why did I say that except the emperor who could take Wang Zhenjun, all the other people who wanted to get involved with her were dead and there were traces of conspiracy? That's because Wang Zhenjun's nominal grandfather Wang He. Lu Chang'an finally couldn't listen anymore and raised his hand to interrupt Li Hongfang. I understand your logic. Wang He was a member of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty and served as the censor of embroidered clothes. This censor of embroidered clothes was similar to the later Jin Yue. The emperor's private army and supervisory officials are not people trusted by the emperor and cannot hold this position. If Lu He and Shang Guandandan give birth to a Wang Zhenjun, it will definitely be a royal scandal. It is necessary to cover up and deal with such a scandal. So Wang He has to take action? It is reasonable for Wang He to take over Wang Zhenjun and raise him, right? Li Hongfang nodded excitedly. This kind of secret that had been hidden for 2,000 years had not even been recorded in history books. How could he not be excited when he and Lu Chang'an discovered the truth through all the details? This is the fun that many archaeologists pursue throughout their lives. Wang He has a very good reputation in history. As the censor of embroidered clothes, he is the most merciful. But if he marries Wang Zhenjun casually, his whole family will be destroyed. Can he still be merciful in this situation? Can he allow others to contaminate Wang Zhenjun? So those who wanted to marry Wang Zhenjun died, and it is clear what happened. Li Hongfang continued, historical books also record that Wang He asked people to read his fortune, and the fortune teller said that his family would definitely have a queen in the future. If you think about it carefully, most people will say that your family will be rich and powerful, or even noble, when they read fortunes. It's unspeakable. There will be an emperor, but how can one detect the empress? In fact, it's just Wang He who is paving the way for public opinion, because he knows the true identity of Wang Zhenjun, and also knows that this is an arrangement between Emperor Xian and the Empress Dowager Shangguan. The emperors of the Western Han dynasty were fatuous. But there is no one who is unfilial, and Emperor Xian is a well-known filial son, so he will do whatever the Empress Dowager Shangguan says, and this is the arrangement. Lu Chang'an was silent and waited for a while. Seeing that Li Hongfang had no intention of talking any more, he asked, "Are you done?" "That's it." Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an. Why didn't he look at himself with admiration anymore? Li Hongfang was even a little flustered. "Yeah. So when you write a novel, you must be knowledgeable and talented to be able to connect unrelated people and things with stories that seem reasonable but are actually nonsense." Lu Chang'an pointed forward, "Turn around." Li Hongfang was a little confused. He said that she was learned and talented, and that it was nonsense. Was he praising her or scolding her? Why should she turn around? Li Hongfang still turned around obediently, but turned to look at Lu Chang'an in confusion. "Remove the armor plates on your buttocks," Lu Chang'an ordered. He knew that these armor plates had extremely strong defensive capabilities. Li Hongfang was taken aback, with a faint blush on her cheeks. Because her combat suit relied on the body's bioelectricity to connect with her, the more skin area in contact with the combat suit, the more effective the connection would be. Therefore, Li Hongfang only wore "I have a pair of T-pants inside." She did not resist, so she had no choice but to follow Lu Chang'an's instructions, bend down and support her knees with her hands, and remove the nail plates on her buttocks. However, for the sake of appearance, the nail plates she removed were in a heart-shaped area, which looked better. At this moment, Li Hongfang only felt a powerful bombardment on her buttocks. Her whole body shot out like a bullet, bombarded into the burglar's cave, and was deeply embedded in the soil. Li Hongfang felt severe pain in his butt. If it hadn't been for this combat suit, he would have turned into meat paste and smeared on the mud. He was frightened and aggrieved. Why did he do this to himself? I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 731. After Li Hongfang dug herself out of the soil, she jumped into the tomb. The body was muddy, and the coating on the surface of the combat suit was not easily stained. Li Hongfang shook his body, and the mud fell down. The protective cover on his head was removed. Li Hongfang subconsciously touched his face. His face was okay. It was also well protected and not damaged. What Li Hongfang is most proud of is her slightly muscular figure. Her appearance is not as beautiful as a Chinese one, but she still cares about it. Precisely because her looks are not as good as her beauty, Li Hongfang didn't have any wild ideas when facing Lu Chang'an. It's just that when a woman faces a man she respects and admires, she doesn't need any pua tricks, she is very willing to be Manipulation, so Lu Chang'an asked her to turn around, so she turned around and asked her to remove the armor. She didn't ask any questions or need him to persuade or force her. Did you do something wrong just now? She didn't do anything. Did you say something wrong? Li Hongfang thought about it carefully. She was just telling her own analysis, and she was talking about the ancients. No, it involved Shang Guandandan. It seems that after Shang Guandandan came out of the living coffin, he and Lu Chang'an have been in love for a long time. He always said that Shang Guandandan and Lu He had a child. Lu Chang'an was probably not happy when he heard this. He felt a little green on his head. The man was there. Very sensitive in this regard. That's not right. Lu Chang'an had to fall in love with Lu He? You can't say that, it happened so long ago, there's nothing wrong with it, but most people don't like to hear other people talk about their girlfriend's past love history, it's still a bit messy. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang pouted. Although she was still a little depressed, she understood. Seeing that Lu Chang'an was still standing next to the coffin and not paying attention to him, Li Hongfang knew that he would not do anything to her anymore, so he tiptoed over again and stood behind Lu Chang'an without saying a word. Lu Chang'an ignored Li Hongfang. She was naturally talking nonsense, but her ideas still inspired Lu Chang'an. He has always been a generous person who hates hearing and is good at absorbing useful information from various remarks. He now prefers that this woman is indeed Wang Zhenjun. Li Hongfang said a lot, and the first paragraph makes sense. There is Wang Mang's tomb in this tomb, and it can be together with Wang Mang's tomb. Only Wang Zhenjun has this qualifications. But if she is Wang Zhenjun, what is the relationship between her and Shang Guandandan? It is impossible to say that there is no relationship at all, after all, they look so similar. Have you driven here? Lu Chang'an asked. It's open, of course. It was impossible for Li Hongfang to rush in the dark wearing such a combat uniform. Can it fit this coffin? I drive a pickup truck, and the loading area is not long enough. Moreover, after it is inserted at this height, the trunk lid cannot be lowered, so you cannot enter the city, and part of the coffin will still be exposed. Li Hongfang understood what Lu Chang'an meant, a little bit. Embarrassed, how about I go back and find a car? No, I don't want the coffin. Lu Chang'an bent down, reached into the coffin and picked up the woman. Although he did not examine her body carefully, he also felt the muscles and bones of her hands and feet. They were very soft and the joints were still flexible, no different from those of a living person. After all, it is called a living coffin. Brother Lu, we originally suspected that something was absorbing the vitality and blood of living creatures in the tomb. Could that thing be her? Li Hongfang hesitated and asked. Most likely. Lu Chang'an was not completely sure, but even if the thing that drew vitality and blood was something else, what he was most concerned about now was just this woman who looked like Shang Guandandan. Then why doesn't she absorb our vitality and vitality now? Li Hongfang didn't feel any discomfort, and Lu Chang'an didn't seem to be enduring the devouring of our vitality, and his expression was as usual. Suppose you dominate the entire elementary school, and one day a high school student stands outside your elementary school waiting for someone. Will you turn a blind eye and leave, or will you go and fight with him? Lu Chang'an looked at the woman in his arms, because she was a slightly older man. Number one has a Shang Guandandan appearance and is slightly heavier. I wonder if Shang Guandandan will grow up. Shang Guandandan has been away from the coffin for a long time. During this time, she ate a lot every day, but she neither gained height nor weight. Sure enough, she is more like a little old lady. If she were a little girl, could she continue to grow without growing taller? Use this to talk to her if you have the chance. When I was in elementary school, I actually had a fight with a high school student, but the other person was also a girl. When I reached into my vest and grabbed her chest, she lost her fighting ability. Li Hongfang recalled that people who would choose a career like her, childhood or adolescence is bound to not be a well-behaved child. Lu Chang'an glanced at her, nodded, and said nothing. Li Hongfang laughed sarcastically, looked down at the bronze coffin, and hesitated a little. We don't want the coffin anymore. If you don't want to return empty-handed, just take away Wang Mang's head sculpture and gold jade clothes. Li Hongfang observed Lu Chang'an's expression, and after making sure that he was not sarcastic, he held the head sculpture in one hand and picked up the jade garment with golden threads in the other. What is that? Li Hongfang saw that after Lu Chang'an picked up the woman, there was something in the coffin, which was emitting a bright red light in the display of her night vision goggles. Lu Chang'an also looked over. The bottom of the coffin was covered with a thick brocade quilt. There was no dent formed by long-term lying on the brocade quilt. There was a red fan on it. Lu Chang'an put the woman in his arms into the coffin covered with gold and jade clothes, and freed his hand to pick up the red fan. Is this a feather fan? Li Hongfang asked curiously. Feather fans have a long history, but few have been found as tomb objects. During excavations, only jade or metal handles are left of the fans. This is not a feather fan, it is just a feather. Lu Chang'an took the feather and looked at it carefully. The feathers of birds are generally divided into straight feathers, down feathers, semi-down feathers, fine feathers, and pink, ran. Goose quills are made from straight feathers, and the famous chicken feathers are also made from straight feathers, which are found on geese and chickens. The thick and tough one. Lu Chang'an also sent many chicken feather letters. There were many chicken feather letters for a period of time, but there is only one actual chicken feather letter in existence. It is stored in a file of A. There is also a thunderous saying in it, "Don't say anything, no advance," was indeed sent to the recipient in the context of an ultimatum. The feathers in front of him, Lu Chang'an, tended to be down feathers. Only the structure of down feathers is close to this fan shape, but down feathers are very, very small feathers on birds. The comparison with feathers is like the comparison between human nose hair and hair length. If this is down feather, the size of this down feather is the same as a fan. Then it is not surprising that a bird with this kind of down feather should have at least 1 meter or even 2 or 3 meters of front feathers. The longest tail feathers are more than it's possible to be 10 meters long. How big should this bird be? I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 732. At present, the largest bird in the world is the African ostrich. They can weigh more than 300 kilograms, which is similar to many fat houses. The combat effectiveness of a fat house is generally equal to 0.5 geese, which means that 2 fat houses can beat a big goose. A 300-pound African ostrich can run at a speed of 70 kilometers per hour and can be trampled to death with one kick. It's a big goose, so if you encounter an African ostrich in a house with similar weight, you must not act rashly and be more careful. Although the African ostrich is large, it is nothing in Lu Chang'an's experience, not to mention its feathers are very short, so the down feathers in Lu Chang'an's hands must have nothing to do with ostriches. Now the bird with the longest feathers in the world is the long-tailed chicken. Generally, its tail feathers can reach more than 7 meters in length. 40 years ago, there was a long-tailed chicken with a tail feather that was 13 meters long. That is to say, if it stood on the 4th floor, its tail feathers can be dragged to the ground downstairs, Lu Chang'an said to himself, drawing on his extensive knowledge about birds. I thought it was a peacock, Li Hongfang said embarrassedly. It was probably not just him who thought so, but most people with little knowledge would think so. Li Hongfang is not a bird researcher or lover, but she is a hobby and collector of Song Dynasty paintings. She told Lu Chang'an about this when Lu Chang'an sent her to pick up along the river during the Qingming festival. Li Hongfang has appreciated many Song paintings. Flowers and birds in Song paintings are the pinnacle. Li Hongfang has seen quite a lot of birds among them. However, the birds in Song paintings are basically small birds. The biggest ones are eagles and peacocks, so peacocks are born. The impression that the tail feathers are the longest is also normal. Long-tailed chickens are an artificial breed that was developed only in the last 2 to 300 years. Li Hongfang has never seen them in Song Dynasty paintings, so naturally he is not familiar with them. Even if he saw them in a zoo, he would not be impressed. Everyone usually goes to the zoo. Looking at the types of animals that have not been eaten before, everyone has eaten chicken. Even if the tail is long, it is not interesting. Could this be the feathers of a red long-tailed chicken? Li Hongfang followed Lu Chang'an's words. No, the long-tailed chicken's tail feathers are long enough, but its body is not big. It has down feathers the size of a normal folding fan. When this bird spreads its wings, it is probably bigger than a heavy fighter jet. Just imagine a bird about the same size as a J-20 birds fell from the sky. How big is the J-20? I know it is the most powerful fourth-generation heavy fighter in the world. Li Hongfang nodded with some understanding. Such a big bird must have become extinct, and only the hair in front of him is left. Be careful of the engine warning. Lu Chang'an smiled. It is more than 20 meters long and more than 10 meters wide. The wingspan of this bird must be more than 10 meters wide, that means it is larger than a heavy fighter jet. How could there be such a big bird? There probably was one in the dinosaur era. Li Hongfang thought for a moment and shook his head. There probably wasn't one in the dinosaur era. The largest flying dinosaur couldn't have been that big. It was too big to fly, maybe be able to glide using the terrain. It didn't exist in the age of dinosaurs, but it existed in the age of mythology. Lu Chang'an held the down feathers and shined a flashlight on the down feathers. Feeling that the night vision glasses made the red light too dazzling, Li Hongfang took off his eyes and stared directly at the down feathers. Li Hongfang can understand the age of dinosaurs, but what does the age of mythology mean? Under the illumination of the flashlight, the down feathers were bright red and dazzling. The color seemed to be that of flowing blood. It exuded a faint crystal luster, with the texture of jade and the vitality of blood. Li Hongfang had never seen such a thing. Lu Chang'an stretched out his hand and pressed the surface of the down feathers. The thin down feathers undulated like seaweed in the water. The edges of the down feathers rolled up and gently wrapped around Lu Chang'an's fingers. They climbed up to the fingertips and then fell down. Come down, as if expressing intimate emotions. What does the age of mythology mean? Li Hongfang also wanted to touch this feather, but she was a little scared. Ever since she experienced watching a part of her body decay and die, she still has psychological shadows. This mysterious and strange thing, with its tiny fluff, reminded Li Hongfang of what Shang Guandandan had pulled out of her body. That time Shang Guandandan tied her arms with his arms and pulled out the hairs one by one from her flesh. There was a thin layer of blood film on the tips of Shang Guandandan's hair, which was so smooth. The flexible feeling is like the down feathers in front of me. Chapter 428. Now it seems that the first time she entered this tomb, she was probably marked by this downy feather. It can't be said that it was a plot. After all, what impact it had on her. Li Hongfang still doesn't know what the withered and depressed state of her body is. I don't know if Rasputin's methods have anything to do with this feather. There was an era of giant beasts that could swallow clouds, spit out mist, and move mountains and seas. Lu Chang'an sighed. Blue whales that were tens of meters long and weighed 200 to 300 tons were very common in that era. 3 species like the Argentinian dinosaurs 40 meters long and about 100 tons of herbivorous animals. If they had appeared in that era, they would have been raised like lambs and used as a source of food. Is there still such an era? Then, how many years ago was that? Li Hongfang was horrified after imagining it. If an ordinary person heard it, they would just think that Lu Chang'an was telling a fairy tale, but after all, Li Hongfang had some special experiences, knowing that the world has many mysteries that are unimaginable. How many billions of years have the Earth been born? The number of billions of years is too huge and feels like just a number. However, if someone can live for billions of years and slowly experience it, they will know how long it is. In such a long time, any era may have been born. Even if some people can live for billions of years, it is impossible to experience all eras. They may miss it or forget it, then modern people can only use technological means to understand all eras. If you study the past and the eras that the Earth has experienced, what you probably understand is just a drop in the ocean. I don't know. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Time is continuous and indivisible. The so-called time units and records of the times are all things humans do. What happened in those times that have not been recorded and discovered by humans, things cannot be positioned on the age scale of human invention. There were already humans at that time, but modern humans have not found strong evidence of their existence at that time, so it seems that they never existed and are just regarded as myths. Li Hongfang thought for a while and nodded with some understanding. Just like the Xia dynasty, even many highly developed civilization relics before the Xia dynasty have been excavated, but the antiquity of our civilization is still not recognized by Western historical circles. Yes, I can't remember clearly, and I can't tell how many years ago it was. I can only call it the mythical age, but this feather, maybe it comes from that era. Lu Chang'an stared at the down feather. There may still be a time when there are dragons and phoenixes. Well, I just reminded you in a very gentle and friendly tone. Don't try to popularize knowledge about phoenix male and female, it will be embarrassing if you read too much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 733. Lu Chang'an and Li Hongfang came out of the tomb. Her car was parked on the other side of the river near the mountain. It was a dark night with no moon, and the cold wind combined with the sound of waves lapping on the shore. The two people jumped across the river, and the woman in Lu Chang'an's arms was the belt of his clothes was stained with water. He looked down and saw that his snow-white face seemed to have some blood color. Heartbeat and breathing, two simple ways to judge the status of ordinary life and death, are not suitable for this special life. It has a heartbeat, is breathing, and is probably alive. No heartbeat or breathing does not necessarily mean death. Lu Chang'an did not try to save her with saliva or blood. After all, her identity was unknown and he had no feelings or memories about her. But he still had to try. He went back to find Shang Guandandan. Lu Chang'an's idea was to let Shang Guandandan try it with her coffin. After all, they were all daughters in the coffin. Li Hongfang took the gold jade clothes and Wang Mang's head sculpture, and the two of them drove into the city overnight. Fortunately, there were no police officers guarding the traffic thoroughfares all night when major cases occurred, otherwise it would have been a bit troublesome. Of course, Li Hongfang is also troublesome. In this situation, Lu Chang'an can pretend to be dead, without heartbeat or breathing. As for things like breaking through and resisting inspection, Lu Chang'an would not do it. That is not in line with the core values of socialism. Thinking about these silly and boring things, Li Hongfang sent Lu Chang'an to the community. The night light in the corridor was on, and the sycamore tree seemed to sense something. The leaves were whirling, and the newly grown leaves were trembling. The sound of cars honking on the streets far and near could be clearly heard. Lu Chang'an hugged the woman down and raised his head. Looking at the old community, I didn't feel that the woman in my arms was beginning to plunder the life. To be on the safe side, he had already relaxed his control over his aura. For any super life form, he was now the most prosperous source of blood energy. According to his speculation, in fact, it may not be the woman in his arms who can rob her of life, but the piece of down. The woman is lying in the coffin. From the Eastern Han Dynasty to modern times, such a lifelike body probably relies on this piece of down. You plundered the vitality to nourish her. As for where this piece of down came from and what it has to do with this woman, these are all unknown and cannot be known by just guessing, unless she wakes up or can tell Lu Chang'an something. The corners of Lu Chang'an's mouth curled up slightly. He was very interested in the ancient civilization where Tesla was located, but Tesla was a threat to the entire human race and the Earth. He had to reseal Tesla. There was no way that guy could live quietly with Lu Chang'an for many years. Live well in this world. So now the only things that can arouse his strong curiosity and interest are the woman in front of him who is suspected to be related to the mythical era and this piece of feathers. Lu Chang'an turned around and looked at Shang Guandandan's door. Maybe Shang Guandandan was also related to the mythical era? Brother Lu, what should we do next? Li Hongfang lowered his voice and asked impatiently. She didn't know what to do next, but she always wanted to do something. Unlike when she went to take along the river during the Qingming festival under Lu Chang'an's instructions, today she acted with Lu Chang'an. Although her bare buttocks were hit, she still felt excited and satisfied. Many people have made sacrifices, dedications, and forbearances, thus gaining the feeling of being moved by themselves. Demand, this psychology is often aimed at specific people. Go back. Lu Chang'an would thank the other party after getting help, so he felt some concern. Wang Mang's head sculpture is okay, be careful with this golden jade suit. I don't take action, I keep it myself. Of course Li Hongfang has her own channels, but the benefits obtained from taking action are accompanied by huge risks, and she currently does not have any projects that require a large amount of funds. Li Hongfang wiped his hands and said, don't you need my help? You can continue to help me prepare to open the store. We can start recruiting workers after the year. Li Hongfang hesitated for a moment and didn't say anything else. She thought that Lu Chang'an would not eat or bury this woman. She would find a chance to take a look next time. Her curiosity was not weak, otherwise she would not have done it in the first place. Not getting into that transport truck. Watching Li Hongfang drive away, Lu Chang'an looked down at the woman in his arms. Nothing had changed. Her skin was still fair and slightly pink, and her torso was soft and her joints were flexible. Lu Chang'an weighed her body, and her head was on his arm. It swayed upwards and fell diagonally on the crook of the arm. The long hair was scattered like a waterfall, and there was no sense of death at all. In a daze, Shang Guandandan was just asleep. Lu Chang'an walked to Shang Guandandan's door and kicked his toes. It is now 6 o'clock in the morning, and the surroundings are still dark. Most of the time, Shang Guandandan will not get up for another half an hour, and come out with her small stove, ready to boil a pot of water. There was no movement inside the door. Lu Chang'an kicked the door patiently and prepared to play general's order according to the familiar score. Just as he was halfway through kicking, the door opened. This time, Shang Guandandan did not just open a crack to observe first, but directly opened the door, grabbed his bangs, and glared at Lu Chang'an with disheveled hair. Dan, good morning. Lu Chang'an looked at the familiar little beauty in front of him, and immediately felt that there were many differences between Shang Guandandan and the woman in his arms, and they were no longer so similar. This is just a subjective feeling. If you are not familiar with Shang Guandandan, you won't feel much difference, except for the difference in body shape and temperament. I. Shang Guandandan raised his hand and was about to touch his thermos, but he didn't bring it with him. When he saw the body Lu Chang'an was holding, he looked a little confused. I'm being held by you. Have you come down to sleep? Shang Guandandan was woken up by Lu Chang'an early in the morning. Shang Guandandan was a little tired of getting up, and his head was still a little confused. He wiped his eyes and took another look to make sure that he was not being held to sleep by Lu Chang'an. He was in his arms. It's not that he doesn't care at all and will never hold his mother to coax her to sleep. This discovery made Shangwen's indifference turn into anger. He scratched his hair, turned around and found the thermos bottle on the table next to him, and held it in his arms angrily. Because sometimes Shang Guandandan fell asleep while watching TV upstairs. He would never hold her in his arms and send her downstairs to sleep like this. He would only pull her ears, pat her face, and even tickle her armpits. After waking her up, let her go downstairs to sleep on her own. Dan, do you know her? Lu Chang'an looked at Shang Guandandan with some confusion. He didn't notice what Shang Guandandan was thinking. He just saw Shang Guandandan's hair dancing, but she didn't seem to notice it herself. At this point, those hairs climbed over like tentacles, wrapped around prey like spider silk, and tightened around the woman in Lu Chang'an's arms. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 734. Shang Guandandan's hair still had a soft and bright luster in the dark night, as if the black moonlight was held together strand by strand, and had the texture of liquid, gently climbing and entwining, wrapping the woman in Lu Chang'an's arms tie up. Those soft hairs have strong power. Lu Chang'an has not experienced it before. When he felt that these hairs were trying to pull the woman in his arms away, Lu Chang'an let go of his hand. He didn't stop the hairs, just observed them curiously. Shang Guandandan was glaring at Lu Chang'an angrily. When he noticed something strange in his hair, he lowered his head and looked at his hair. His eyes became blank, as if he didn't understand how his hair could become like this. Just as the two of them were observing her hair, the tips of her hair suddenly penetrated into the woman's skin like plant roots growing in slow motion. Before Lu Chang'an had time to think about the scene in front of him, the woman was like a mural in a tomb that had not seen the light of day for thousands of years. It oxidized, fell off, and lost its color the moment it came into contact with the outside air. The originally white and rosy skin turned dull, then withered and turned black, and then fell off and shattered like weathered mortar. The woman's flesh and blood turned into dust and fell. Lu Chang'an saw the white bones, and the woman was entangled in black hair in the blink of an eye. All that is left of the woman's body is a complete skeleton. Shang Guandandan's long hair loosened his frame, and his bones fell to the ground, which also hit Lu Chang'an's eyeballs. I'm really too young, Lu Chang'an lamented. In fact, it is not uncommon to be able to absorb vitality and blood. In order for a super life form to obtain the energy to support its existence, it must have energy conversion efficiency and acquisition methods that far exceed those of ordinary organisms. However, this is the first time that Shang Guandandan has seen it in this way. Are on a par with the black-hearted capitalists who want to squeeze out the last drop of blood and sweat from the proletariat. Rasputin plotted against Li Hongfang. There was at least one process. Li Hongfang lost vitality, and his body began to wither and decline slowly and step by step. It also left Li Hongfang struggling to find a chance to heal. A blood-sucking or parasitic creature in nature does not devour its host so harshly. Of course, most of this is because these creatures have limited abilities and cannot devour their host completely instantly. It is not that they are kind-hearted and know how to stop when enough is enough. What's going on? Shang Guandandan threw away the thermos bottle in his hand, put his arms around Lu Chang'an's neck and climbed on top of him, his eyes wide open in fear. And Nuan crawled on Lu Chang'an, always on his back, like a monkey teasing tourists in a tourist area, and tried to use her weight to gain strength to suppress Lu Chang'an, while Shang Guandandan crawled into his arms, like a monkey in a tourist area. A panicked cat leaving its territory. Where do I know where to go? Lu Chang'an was hit on the foot by the thermos, and his ears and hair were pulled by her when she was crawling. He had to reach out and hug her. Only then did she stop grabbing his head and calm down a little. Put your arms around Lu Chang'an's neck. Shang Guandandan panted heavily and glanced at Lu Chang'an in panic. He closed one eye, turned his head slightly and looked at the bones on the ground, and then at himself. So he wasn't caught and eaten? Shang Guandandan recalled the scene just now. He thought he had been caught and eaten, so he crawled into Lu Chang'an's arms in fear. Shang Guandandan loosened one of his hands around Lu Chang'an's neck and patted his chest. He was a little relieved to think that although Lu Chang'an was not very considerate in comforting the weak Queen Mother, he could still give the weak Queen Mother a stable embrace at critical moments. Then let's ignore the original reason for being angry for the time being. What did you say is going on? Lu Chang'an lowered his head and looked at Shang Guandandan, and then looked at her hair. At this time, the soft and shiny black hair seemed to have no effect except that it looked better than the one in the shampoo advertisement. Any exceptions were made. Normally I can control my hair and let it do whatever it wants, but I didn't do it just now. Shang Guandandan tried to control a strand of his hair and climbed up Lu Chang'an's arm. Lu Chang'an quickly let go and threw Shang Guandandan away. Ah! Shang Guandandan landed on her butt. She was just an ordinary young girl, and she didn't have a big butt like Yaya. She suddenly felt that her butt was flattened by the fall. Shang Guandandan cried out in pain and glared at Lu Chang'an. Sorry, human beings are always vigilant and fearful when facing the unknown. I am also an ordinary person and have the same mental state as ordinary people. Lu Chang'an helped Shang Guandandan apologetically. He is not afraid if he is afraid, but is it difficult to control the conditioned reflex? Shang Guandandan observed Lu Chang'an and made sure that he was not deliberately bullying him. He picked up the thermos flask on the ground, wiped it and held it in his arms. As expected, only his beloved thermos flask was more reliable. You said you didn't control it? Could it be that your coffin controlled your hair? Lu Chang'an glanced at the door of Shang Guandandan's room. No, I am the only one who can control the little coffin. The little coffin will not control me. Shang Guandandan shook his head and wanted to touch his beloved baby, but the little coffin was in the room, so Shang Guandandan touched it. Forget about touching the thermos. Lu Chang'an looked at Shang Guandandan's thermos pot. The paint on it had begun to peel off. I recalled it, and it just felt like a baby was hungry. It didn't need a mother to teach it to drink milk. It would just bite, and drink. Shang Guandandan regretted a little shyly, there is nothing that can be done about it. After thinking about it carefully, I am sure that even though I did not control my hair to absorb vitality and blood, when I saw the body of a woman who looked very much like me, I did have a feeling that I needed to supplement something. Instinct. Lu Chang'an understood what Shang Guandandan meant, the body just now must have been unconscious. Otherwise, with such strong blood, it wouldn't have been eaten by you without even resisting. I feel like she is a part of me, she just returned to my body. Shang Guandandan looked at the bones on the ground. How could this happen? Lu Chang'an looked at Shang Guandandan. At this time, he found that he also had a strong instinct, which was ready to move. Lu Chang'an was a little surprised, but he suppressed it in an instant. He was not like Shang Guandandan who couldn't control his instinct. Lu Chang'an bent down, rummaged through the remaining clothes and bones of the body, and found the piece of down inside. It turned out that Lu Chang'an suspected that this piece of down feather was the key to keeping the body's vitality and vitality like a living person, so he did not let the piece of down feather leave the body and put it in the clothes. Picking up the piece of down feather, Lu Chang'an found that the down feather had also changed. It was no longer like jade condensed with blood. It no longer had the elastic and smooth texture, and the color was not so bright, like fruit that had been stored for a long time. The fresh color has faded. Compared to the body, Lu Chang'an paid more attention to the down feathers. This down feather was the key to keeping the body in good condition. The most concerning thing about that body is why it looks like Shang Guandandan, and Shang Guandandan said, it seems to be a part of me. Although this unexpected answer to Lu Chang'an cannot answer all the doubts, it also makes people understand it. Some reasons. This feather should come from the age of mythology. Don't destroy it. Lu Chang'an was holding the down feather. When he saw Shang Guandandan reaching for it, he quickly moved away. Who knows if she would have another instinct to take this feather? The down feathers were also ruined. What mythical era? Shang Guandandan frowned. It's an era when there were dragons, phoenixes, and mythical creatures. Then do you think these are phoenix feathers? It's very possible that's what Lu Chang'an thought. Shang Guandandan waved to Lu Chang'an. What are you doing? Her beckoning gesture of raising her palms high was something she would do every time she wanted to touch Lu Chang'an's head. Lu Chang'an couldn't understand why she suddenly wanted to touch his head. "Let me touch your head, and I'll tell you what these feathers are," Shangguan Dandan continued, waving expectantly. Although it was still dark, Lu Chang'an still looked left and right, and then he reluctantly bent down and touched her head. After a moment, Lu Chang'an stood up quickly, but Shangguan Dandan was also satisfied, turned around and walked into his room. Lu Chang'an followed, and this little old lady made Lu Chang'an feel more and more mysterious. "Asking for a monthly ticket.